The room fell silent as Commander Vorak, a towering reptilian being with scaled skin that shimmered under the dim lights, snarled at his assembled warriors. He was pacing in front of a large viewing screen that displayed a vicious scene from the gladiatorial pits. An alien brute covered in spikes and scars standing over the broken bodies of several unfortunate challengers. The creature roared, chest heaving, daring anyone to face him next. None in the room moved. The brute was known as Kagger the Unbroken, the undefeated champion of the Varick System's gladiatorial arena. His reputation was that of a monster who tore through his opponents with savage efficiency, a creature who had never known defeat. Kagger's blood-soaked victories were the stuff of nightmares, a legend across the stars, and the idea of facing him was enough to make even the most seasoned warriors tremble. The tension was thick. The warriors, most of them hardened and brutal in their own right, exchanged nervous glances, unwilling to meet Vorak's piercing gaze. Cowards, Vorak spat, his voice thick with disgust. Every one of you a disgrace to your species. This is why our conquest falters, why we are mocked by the lesser races. He slammed his fist into a console, shattering it into a spray of sparks. We need a symbol, someone who can show the galaxy that the might of the Xel'Naga is unmatched. But it seems none of you are worthy. That was when a voice calm and devoid of fear broke through the silence. I'll fight him. All eyes turned to the back of the room, where a solitary figure stood. He was an outlier among the alien warriors, a being whose presence seemed almost absurd in this den of monsters. Clad in standard-issue fatigues, with a clean-shaven head and a lean but muscular build, he looked more like a man on his morning jog than someone about to challenge the galaxy's most feared gladiator. He was human. You. Vorak sneered, his disbelief evident. A human? You think you stand a chance against Kagger? You'll be torn apart before the fight even begins. The human stepped forward, his expression unchanging, a glint of steel in his eye. I didn't join this outfit to sit on the sidelines, Commander. You wanted a warrior who isn't afraid. Well, here I am. The other warriors in the room, many of whom had ridiculed the human in the past, looked at him now with a mix of confusion and perhaps grudging respect. Humans were known for their resilience, but this was insanity. You're a Navy SEAL trainee, right? Vorak's eyes narrowed, the faintest trace of curiosity breaking through his disdain. Yes, sir, the human replied. Trained in close combat, firearms, and survival in the harshest environments Earth has to offer. Vorak snorted, crossing his arms. That may be impressive among your kind, but Kagger is not some primitive beast from your homeworld. He's a war machine, designed and bred for slaughter. You won't survive 5 minutes. Maybe not, the human said with a shrug. But maybe I will. A murmur ran through the room. The alien warriors, some with faces resembling insects, others with features that defied human comprehension, all seemed to buzz with a strange energy. They had seen courage before, but this was something else entirely. It was as if the human didn't even recognize the concept of fear. Vorak studied the human closely. The commander was no fool. He had seen countless warriors, both alien and human, meet their ends in the pits, torn apart by monsters they had no hope of defeating. But there was something in this human's eyes, something that Vorak couldn't quite place. A challenge, perhaps, or was it an acceptance of fate? Very well, Vorak said finally, a sinister grin creeping across his face. You will have your chance. But don't think for a second that your human training will save you. Kagger is not some Earth predator you can outwit. He's a nightmare made flesh. The human nodded, his expression unchanged. When do I fight? Vorak glanced at the viewing screen, where Kagger was now being escorted from the arena, his latest victory still fresh. The beast's eyes were wild, his hunger for the next challenge almost palpable. Tomorrow, Vorak said, at dawn. And if you survive longer than 5 minutes, I'll consider you more than just a fool with a death wish. The human turned to leave, but before he could, Vorak called out, What's your name, human? The human paused at the doorway, looking back over his shoulder. Jack, he said simply, and then he was gone. The room remained silent for a long moment after Jack's departure. The warriors were stunned, some exchanging uneasy glances, others trying to mask their surprise with sneers. Vorak himself was lost in thought, his mind racing with possibilities. Prepare the arena, Vorak finally ordered. I want Kagger hungry. No distractions, no handicaps. Let's see what this human is really made of. As the warriors dispersed, whispers filled the air, a mixture of doubt and grim amusement. Kagger the Unbroken was a legend, and legends didn't fall to mere humans. But then again, none of them had ever seen someone quite like Jack before. Gathered to witness the spectacle, a human, a mere trainee, had dared to challenge Kagger. It was a sight no one wanted to miss. Jack stood alone in the preparation chamber, a small dark room with nothing but a single bench and a set of weapons. He was calm, almost eerily so, his hands steady as he checked the balance of the blade he had chosen, a long serrated knife that glinted menacingly in the dim light. There were other weapons available, more suited to the technologically advanced arena, but Jack had chosen this one. It was simple, reliable, and he knew it would do the job if he could get close enough. The rest he would leave to his training, and to whatever luck the universe decided to grant him. A low rumble filled the chamber as the doors slowly opened, revealing the arena beyond. Jack could hear the distant roars of the crowd, the bloodthirsty anticipation in the air. He could feel the vibrations in the ground as Kagger entered the ring, each footstep of the beast like a thunderclap against the dirt. Jack took a deep breath and stepped out into the light. The arena was massive, its walls towering high above, lined with spectators from countless worlds. The air was thick with dust, the smell of sweat and blood hanging heavy. Across from him, Kagger stood, his massive frame dwarfing everything around him. The creature's red eyes glowed with malevolence, his muscles rippling beneath scarred skin. For a moment, the two opponents simply stared at each other, the crowd's roar fading into the background. Kagger the undefeated beast and Jack the human, who had no business being there. It was a match that made no sense, a challenge that defied reason, and yet here they were. Jack tightened his grip on the knife, his mind clearing of everything but the task ahead. He knew the odds, knew the futility of it all. But he also knew something else, something that every Navy SEAL trainee learned from day one. Victory wasn't about brute strength. It was about endurance, strategy, and the will to keep going when every instinct screamed to give up. With a final breath, Jack stepped forward, his eyes locked on Kagger's. The battle had begun. The instant Jack stepped into the arena, the atmosphere changed. The crowd's cheers, once deafening, faded to a low rumble as anticipation gripped the audience. It was as if the entire galaxy held its breath, waiting to see how long this human would last against the mighty Kagger. Kagger, towering over everything, let out a guttural growl that sent shivers down the spines of the onlookers. His spiked, sinewy frame flexed with each breath, his massive claws ready to tear Jack apart. He was a being bred for war, a creature that had never known fear or mercy. But as he stared down at Jack, who looked so small in comparison, there was no hesitation in the human's eyes. Jack began to move slowly, circling Kagger, keeping his distance. His movements were fluid, deliberate, and entirely at odds with the madness surrounding him. In his mind, he could hear the voice of his instructor from BUD/S training. Keep your focus. Assess the situation. Survive. Kagger's patience was short-lived. With a roar that echoed across the arena, the beast lunged forward, faster than anything that size had a right to be. The ground shook under his weight as he charged, claws slashing through the air where Jack had stood a split second before. But Jack was already moving, rolling to the side, using his momentum to propel himself to his feet. He was close now, close enough to smell the metallic tang of Kagger's sweat, close enough to see the battle scars that crisscrossed the alien's skin. Jack knew that a direct confrontation was suicide. Kagger's strength was beyond anything he had ever faced. Instead, he needed to rely on something else, something that had kept him alive in the harshest environments Earth had to offer. Jack darted in, slicing at Kagger's side with his knife. The blade connected, drawing a line of greenish blood. Kagger roared in fury, spinning with surprising agility, but Jack was already gone, ducking beneath the massive swing of Kagger's claws. He danced around the beast, landing quick, precise strikes, each one aimed at a weak point: joints, tendons, the soft flesh under the arms. For a moment, it seemed to be working. Kagger's movements became more sluggish, his roars more frustrated. The crowd began to murmur, the impossible thought creeping into their minds. Could the human actually win? But then, as Jack went for another strike, Kagger anticipated the move. With a speed that defied belief, he backhanded Jack, sending him flying across the arena. Jack hit the ground hard, the wind knocked out of him, his vision blurring from the impact. He could feel the warm trickle of blood down his face, the sharp pain of broken ribs. But he forced himself to his feet, shaking his head to clear it, his knife still clutched tightly in his hand. Kagger was upon him in an instant, his massive frame casting a shadow over Jack. The beast's eyes burned with hatred, his breath hot and rancid. He swung again, and this time Jack barely managed to dodge, the claws grazing his shoulder, tearing through the fabric of his shirt and the flesh beneath. Jack knew he couldn't take another hit like that. He was running out of options, running out of time. But as he looked up at Kagger, he realized something. The beast was panting, its chest heaving with exertion. Jack had been making Kagger work harder than he ever had to before, forcing the monster to move in ways it wasn't used to react to an opponent that refused to stand still. And then it hit him. The voice of his instructor echoed in his mind once more. The best way to beat an opponent stronger than you is to make them tire themselves out. With renewed determination, Jack took a deep breath and launched himself forward, ducking under Kagger's swing and driving his knife into the beast's thigh. Kagger howled in pain, staggering back, but Jack didn't relent. He was a blur of motion, striking and dodging, always moving, never giving Kagger a chance to regain his footing. Minutes passed, though to Jack, it felt like hours. His muscles screamed in protest, his lungs burned, but he pushed through the pain, refusing to give in. Kagger's attacks grew wilder. The next morning, as the sun began to rise over the dusty, blood-soaked sands of the arena, the stands were packed. Word had spread quickly, and beings from across the galaxy had. More desperate, his movements slower and less coordinated. The crowd was on its feet now, their cheers a cacophony of disbelief and excitement. And then, with a final desperate lunge, Jack saw his opening. He ducked under Kagger's swing, stepping inside the beast's reach, and drove his knife up into Kagger's chest, aiming for the heart. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Kagger's eyes widened in shock, low guttural noise escaping his throat. Then, slowly, the beast began to topple, falling to the ground with a resounding thud. The arena was silent, the crowd stunned into disbelief. Jack stood over Kagger's body, his chest heaving, his knife still buried in the beast's chest. He had done it. He had defeated the undefeated. As the realization sank in, the crowd erupted into cheers, the sound deafening. Jack swayed on his feet, the adrenaline finally fading, leaving him weak and exhausted. But he forced himself to stay standing, to look up at the stands where Vorak watched, his expression unreadable. Vorak stepped forward, raising his hands to silence the crowd. "The human has won," he declared, his voice booming across the arena. "Against all odds, he has proven himself a true warrior." The crowd roared again, and Jack allowed himself a small, tired smile. He had done what no one else had thought possible. He had faced the monster and won. Jack stumbled back to the preparation chamber, every step sending a jolt of pain through his battered body. His mind was a haze, a mix of exhaustion, disbelief, and adrenaline. The cheers of the crowd still echoed in his ears, but they felt distant, almost unreal. He had done it. Against all odds, he had survived, and more than that, he had won. But now, with the fight over, the pain and fatigue crashed over him like a wave. Inside the chamber, a medbot hovered in the corner, its metallic limbs unfolding as it approached him. Jack collapsed onto the bench, barely able to keep his eyes open as the machine began scanning his injuries. The cold touch of a dermal regenerator passed over the gash on his shoulder, sealing the wound with a faint hum. Multiple contusions, 2 fractured ribs, minor lacerations, the medbot reported in a flat, mechanical tone. Initiating treatment protocols. Jack winced as the bot injected a hypo into his neck, the sudden rush of painkillers and nanobots flooding his system. He leaned back against the wall, closing his eyes, letting the drugs dull the agony that racked his body. Moments later, the chamber door hissed open, and Vorak entered, flanked by 2 heavily armored guards. The commander's expression was inscrutable, his reptilian eyes fixed on Jack with a mixture of curiosity and something else, something that might have been respect. "You survived," Vorak said, his voice carrying a grudging admiration. "Against all logic, against all expectation, you defeated Kagger." Jack opened his eyes, meeting Vorak's gaze. "I told you I'd last more than 5 minutes," he said, his voice hoarse but steady. Vorak let out a short, barking laugh, the closest thing to genuine amusement Jack had ever seen from him. "You did more than that, human. You achieved what no other warrior has done. You brought down the Unbroken." Jack nodded, too tired to say anything more. He knew better than to let the victory go to his head. He was still in hostile territory, surrounded by warriors who would gladly see him dead if given the chance. Vorak studied him for a moment longer, then gestured to the guards. "Take him to the medical bay," he ordered. "Make sure he's fully healed." I want him ready for what comes next. The guards moved to either side of Jack, helping him to his feet. He didn't resist, letting them guide him out of the chamber and down a long, dimly lit corridor. As they walked, Jack's mind raced with questions. What did Vorak mean by what comes next? Had he just fought his way into another impossible situation? But for now, he pushed those thoughts aside. He needed to focus on surviving the next few hours, on getting through whatever came next with the same determination that had carried him through the fight with Kagger. Days passed in a blur of pain and recovery. The medbay was a sterile, white chamber, its walls lined with advanced medical equipment that hummed and beeped constantly. The nanobots worked quickly, mending Jack's broken ribs and healing his torn muscles, but the process was still grueling. Every movement sent a sharp reminder of the punishment his body had endured, and the medbots offered little in the way of comfort or conversation. It was during one of these long, silent stretches that Vorak returned, striding into the medbay with the same air of authority he always carried. Jack sat up, wincing slightly as he swung his legs over the side of the bed. "How's your recovery?" Vorak asked, his tone brisk. "Better," Jack replied, rolling his shoulders. "Still hurts, but I'm alive." Vorak nodded, then folded his arms across his chest. "Good. Because I have a proposition for you." Jack raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "A proposition?" "Yes," Vorak said. "Your victory over Kagger has caused quite a stir. Not just here, but across the galaxy. Everyone is talking about the human who defeated the undefeated. You've become something of a legend overnight." Jack snorted. "Is that why I've been kept here? To heal up so I can be paraded around as your new champion?" Vorak's eyes narrowed, but he didn't take the bait. "Not exactly," he said. "I have something else in mind. An opportunity, if you're willing to take it." Jack leaned forward, his interest piqued despite himself. "What kind of opportunity?" "The kind that could change everything," Vorak replied. "For both of us." He began to pace, his reptilian tail swishing behind him. "The Xel'Naga are powerful, but we're not invincible. Our reputation, our fearsome image, has been built on strength and conquest, but it's also been built on control. There are those within our ranks who are beginning to doubt our leadership, who see your victory as a sign that we are not as strong as we claim to be." Jack nodded slowly, starting to see where this was going. "And you want to use me to strengthen your position?" Vorak stopped, turning to face him. "Yes," he said bluntly, "but not just as a pawn. I want you to join us, to become part of the Xel'Naga. With your skills, your tenacity, you could be a valuable asset. Together, we could reshape the balance of power in this sector, solidify our control, and crush any who would dare challenge us." Jack stared at Vorak, weighing the offer. It was tempting, in a way. The chance to be more than just a prisoner, to have a say in his own fate, was something he hadn't dared hope for. But he also knew the dangers. The Xel'Naga were ruthless, their conquests marked by brutality and oppression. Did he really want to be a part of that? To align himself with a regime that saw strength as the only virtue? "What's in it for me?" Jack asked finally. "Aside from not being thrown back into the arena to fight until I die." Vorak smiled, cold, predatory grin. "Power, prestige, freedom. You would no longer be a prisoner, but a warrior of the Xel'Naga, respected and feared. And if you prove yourself, there's no limit to how high you could rise." Jack nodded slowly, his mind racing. It was a dangerous proposition, but it was also an opportunity. One he might not get again. "All right," he said, meeting Vorak's gaze. "I'll consider it. But I want guarantees. I want to know that if I join you, I won't just be another expendable asset tossed aside when I'm no longer useful." Vorak's eyes glinted with approval. "Smart," he said. "I wouldn't expect anything less from you. You have my word, Jack. Prove yourself, and you will be rewarded. Fail, and, well, you know what happens to those who fail." Jack nodded again, his decision made. "All right, Vorak, you got yourself a deal." Vorak's grin widened, and he extended a clawed hand. Jack shook it, feeling the cold, rough scales beneath his palm. "Welcome to the Xel'Naga," Jack, Vorak said. "I think you'll find that this is only the beginning." The days that followed were a whirlwind of training and indoctrination. Jack was assigned a new room, larger and more comfortable than his previous cell, and given access to the Xel'Naga's extensive training facilities. Vorak was true to his word. Jack was treated as an equal, a warrior in training rather than a prisoner. But it was clear that he was still being tested. His training was overseen by a new figure, a Zelnaga named Harka. She was tall and lean, with dark, scaled skin and piercing yellow eyes that seemed to see straight through him. She didn't speak much, but when she did, her words were sharp and to the point. "You may have defeated Kagger," she said during their first session, "but that doesn't make you invincible. The Zelnaga do not tolerate weakness. You will be pushed to your limits and beyond. If you survive, you will be stronger for it. If you do not, then you will have proven yourself unworthy." Jack nodded, his expression grim. "I understand." "Good," Harka said, her eyes narrowing. "Then let's begin." The training was brutal. Jack was put through a regimen that would have made his SEAL instructors proud. Physical conditioning, combat drills, and weapons training filled his days. He sparred with other Zelnaga warriors, each one more skilled and deadly than the last. They fought with a variety of weapons, from plasma blades to energy whips, each one requiring a different strategy and approach. But it wasn't just physical training. Jack was also taught the ways of the Zelnaga, their history, their philosophy, their tactics. He learned about their conquest, their victories, and the brutal efficiency with which they ruled. It was clear that the Zelnaga valued strength above all else, and that weakness was not tolerated. As the weeks passed, Jack found himself growing stronger, faster, more attuned to the ways of his new allies. He adapted quickly, learning to anticipate his opponent's moves, to strike with precision and power. He was still human, still an outsider, but he was earning his place, one brutal fight at a time. One evening, after a particularly grueling session, Harka approached him, her expression unreadable. "You're improving," she said, "but you're still holding back. You're afraid to truly embrace the way of the Zelnaga." Jack wiped the sweat from his brow, meeting her gaze. "I'm not afraid," he said evenly. I don't know if I'm ready to become what you want me to be." Harka tilted her head, her eyes narrowing. "And what is it you think we want you to be, human?" Jack hesitated, then sighed. "A killer," he said. "A weapon, like all the others." Harka's expression softened, just a fraction. "We are all weapons, Jack," she said quietly. "But a weapon is only as good as the one who wields it. You have a choice. You can be a tool used by others, or you can become something more. A warrior who fights for something greater than himself." Jack nodded slowly, considering her words. He didn't know if he could ever fully embrace the Zelnaga way, but he also knew that he couldn't go back to what he was. Not after everything he had been through. "I'll think about it," he said finally. Harka nodded, turning to leave. "Do more than think, Jack," she said over her shoulder. "Decide? Because in the end, the only thing that matters is what you choose to become." Jack watched her go, her words echoing in his mind. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain: he was no longer just a prisoner, fighting for survival. He was something more, something stronger. And whatever came next, he was ready for it. A month into his training, Jack was summoned to the command chamber. As he entered, he noticed the walls were lined with star maps, strategic overlays, and holographic projections of alien worlds. Vorak stood at the center, surrounded by a handful of high-ranking Zelnaga officers. They all turned as Jack approached, their expressions stern. "Jack," Vorak greeted, his tone authoritative but not unkind. "Your training has gone well. Better than expected. But training is one thing, combat is another. It's time to see how you fare in a real mission." Jack nodded, keeping his face neutral. He had been expecting this. The Zelnaga were not known for their patience. "What's the mission?" Vorak gestured to a holographic display that materialized in the center of the room. It showed a small planet, mostly covered in thick forests and vast oceans. "This is Turon 4, a remote world on the edge of our territory. We've had reports of an insurgent group forming there, composed of various species who have fled our rule. They've begun to amass weapons, and intelligence suggests they're planning to strike against a nearby Zelnaga outpost." Jack studied the display. "And you want me to, what? Infiltrate them? Take them out?" Vorak's eyes narrowed. "You will be leading a squad of Zelnaga warriors. Your objective is to eliminate the insurgents and ensure the safety of our outpost. This will be your first test as a leader within the Zelnaga. Prove yourself here, and your place among us will be secured." Jack's mind raced. Leading a squad meant he would have to earn the trust and respect of the Zelnaga warriors under his command, not an easy task given their disdain for outsiders. But it was also an opportunity, a chance to prove his worth and to learn more about his new allies. "I'll do it," Jack said, his voice firm. "When do we leave?" Vorak smiled slightly. "Immediately. Your squad is waiting for you in the hangar." "Good luck, Jack. Remember, failure is not an option." Jack nodded, turning to leave. As he walked out of the chamber, he couldn't shake the feeling that this mission was about more than just crushing a rebellion. It was a test of his loyalty, his strength, and his resolve. And he would have to be careful if he wanted to survive it. The shuttle ride to Turon 4 was tense and silent. Jack sat near the front, his eyes scanning the faces of his squad. 6 Xel'Naga warriors, each one hardened by years of battle, their expressions a mix of skepticism and barely concealed contempt. Jack knew they didn't trust him, didn't think he deserved to lead them. He would have to prove them wrong. As the shuttle descended through the atmosphere, Jack stood and addressed his team. "Listen up. I know some of you don't think I belong here. I get it. But right now, we have a job to do. The insurgents are holed up in the northern sector, deep in the forest. We go in fast and hard, take them out before they know what hit them." "Any questions?" The warriors exchanged glances but remained silent. One of them, a massive Xel'Naga named Krill, stepped forward. "Just stay out of our way, human," he growled. "We've been doing this long before you came along." Jack met Krill's gaze evenly. "Noted," he said. "But remember, this is my mission. You don't have to like me, but you will follow my orders." "Understood." Krill grunted, but didn't argue. Jack took that as a good sign. He turned back to the rest of the squad. "All right, get ready. We're landing in 2 minutes." The shuttle touched down in a small clearing, the ramp lowering with a hiss. Jack led the way out, his rifle at the ready. The forest was dense, the trees towering high above, their thick branches blocking out most of the sunlight. The air was humid, filled with the sounds of distant wildlife. "Stay sharp," Jack said, moving forward. "We don't know how many of them there are, or what kind of weapons they have." The squad advanced slowly, moving through the underbrush with practiced ease. Jack kept his senses alert, scanning for any signs of movement. He knew they were getting close. The tension in the air was palpable. Suddenly, a burst of gunfire erupted from the trees, tearing through the foliage. Jack dropped to the ground, shouting for his squad to take cover. The Xel'Naga warriors responded instantly, diving behind rocks and fallen logs as more shots rang out. "They're in the trees," Krill shouted, firing his weapon up into the canopy. "We need to flush them out." "Grenades," Jack ordered. "Flush them out." 2 of the warriors pulled grenades from their belts, tossing them into the trees. A series of explosions rocked the forest, sending debris flying. Jack heard screams and saw several figures fall from the branches, their bodies hitting the ground with a sickening thud. "Move up," Jack yelled, charging forward. "Take them down." The squad surged forward, firing their weapons as they went. Jack took aim at a group of insurgents scrambling to set up a machine gun and squeezed the trigger. His rifle barked, the rounds finding their targets and sending the enemy tumbling. The firefight was intense but brief. Within minutes, the insurgents were either dead or fleeing into the forest. Jack lowered his weapon, his heart pounding in his chest. He looked around at his squad, noting the looks of grudging respect on their faces. "Is that all of them?" Krill asked, still scanning the trees. Jack shook his head. "Doubt it. They'll regroup and come back. We need to secure this area and make sure they don't have a chance to retaliate." Krill nodded, and for the first time, Jack saw a hint of approval in the warrior's eyes. "Not bad, human," he said. "Maybe you're not as useless as I thought." Jack allowed himself a small smile. "Thanks, I think. Let's set up a perimeter and keep an eye out for any stragglers. We're not done here yet." As the squad moved to secure the area, Jack felt a surge of confidence. He had passed the first test, but he knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead, and he would have to be ready for whatever came next. The squad spent the next few hours fortifying their position and searching for any remaining insurgents. They found several more hiding in the underbrush, quickly dispatching them before they could mount a counterattack. As the sun began to set, Jack called his team together. "We'll set up camp here for the night," he said. 2-hour shifts on watch. We need to stay alert in case they try to come back." The warriors nodded, and soon the camp was set up, a small fire crackling in the center. Jack sat down on a log, staring into the flames. He felt a strange mix of relief and unease. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. Krill approached, sitting down across from him. "You did well today, Jack," he said gruffly. "Better than I expected." Jack looked up, surprised by the compliment. "Thanks, Krill. That means a lot coming from you." Krill grunted. "Don't let it go to your head. This was just one fight. We've got a long way to go." Jack nodded. "I know, but I appreciate it all the same." They sat in silence for a moment, the crackling of the fire the only sound. Finally, Krill spoke again, his voice low. "You don't really belong here, you know. With the Xel'Naga." Jack sighed. "I know, but right now this is the best chance I have. If I can prove myself, maybe I can find a way to make things better. For everyone." Krill looked at him, his expression unreadable. "Maybe. Or maybe you'll just end up like the rest of us. A weapon, doing what we're told." Jack met his gaze. "I guess that's a risk I'll have to take." Krill nodded slowly. "Just remember, Jack, the Xel'Naga respect strength, but they also respect honor. If you want to survive here, you'll need to find a way to balance both." Jack watched as Krill stood and walked away, his words lingering in the air. He knew Krill was right. The path he had chosen was dangerous, filled with uncertainty and peril. But it was also a path that could lead to something more, if he was strong enough to walk it. As the night wore on and the forest grew quiet, Jack sat by the fire, thinking about the future. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he knew one thing. He was no longer just a prisoner, fighting for his life. He was a warrior, and he was ready for whatever came next. The next morning, Jack and his squad continued their patrols, checking for any signs of insurgent activity. The forest around them was eerily quiet, the only sounds being the occasional rustling of leaves and distant calls of wildlife. It felt too calm, almost unnatural. As they moved through the underbrush, Jack's radio crackled to life. "Jack, this is Vorak. Report status." "Squad secure," Jack replied. "We've neutralized the immediate threat. I'm concerned that the silence might mean there's more going on. We're continuing our sweep." Vorak's voice came through, calm but firm. "Be cautious. We've received intelligence that suggests the insurgents might be planning something big. They could be regrouping or preparing an ambush. Keep your eyes open." Jack's grip tightened on his rifle. "Understood. We'll stay alert." The squad pressed on, moving deeper into the forest. The terrain grew more rugged, with thick vines and uneven ground making the progress slow. Jack glanced at his squad, noting their weariness but also their determination. They were starting to accept him as their leader, but the real test would be whether he could keep them safe. Suddenly, Krill, who had taken point, signaled for them to halt. "Movement ahead," he whispered, his voice low and steady. Jack motioned for the squad to spread out and take cover. He and Krill crept forward, peering through the foliage. In the distance, they spotted a clearing with a series of makeshift tents and barricades. Insurgents were milling about, seemingly unprepared for any immediate conflict. "Looks like a supply base," Jack said, his mind racing. "If they're gathering resources here, they're planning something significant." Krill nodded. "We need to take this out before they can use it. But we'll need to be careful. They're not expecting us." Jack considered their options. "We hit them hard and fast, disrupt their operations, and then fall back to a defensible position. We don't know if there's more of them waiting in the wings." The squad prepared for the assault, setting up their weapons and checking their gear. Jack assigned roles. Krill and another warrior would provide cover fire, while the rest would advance on the supply base. On my signal, Jack instructed, "Move out." He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. This was their chance to cripple the insurgents' plans and prove themselves once more. "Go." The squad erupted into action, charging into the clearing. The insurgents, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. Gunfire erupted as Jack's team engaged them, targeting the supply caches and key structures. Jack moved with precision, his rifle finding targets, and his mind focused on mission. He noticed a group of insurgents attempting to set up a counterattack, and he signaled for Krill and the others to focus their fire on them. The Xel'Naga warriors worked in perfect synchronization, their training evident in every move. Despite their initial surprise, the insurgents fought back fiercely. Jack spotted a heavy weapon emplacement near the edge of the clearing and made his way toward it, determined to neutralize the threat. As he approached, an explosion shook the ground nearby. Jack was thrown off balance but quickly regained his footing. He looked around, realizing that the clearing was now a chaotic battlefield, with smoke and debris obscuring visibility. A figure appeared from the smoke, a heavily armed insurgent aiming directly at Jack. With a swift motion, Jack fired, hitting the insurgent and sending him crashing to the ground. "Jack, we've got to fall back." Krill's voice came through the radio urgent. "They're regrouping, and we're getting overwhelmed." Jack nodded, his eyes scanning the area. "Retreat to the perimeter." "Move." The squad fell back, covering each other as they withdrew from the clearing. The supply base was in ruins, but the insurgents were beginning to rally. Jack led his team back to their previous position, setting up defenses and preparing for the possibility of a counterattack. As the squad took their positions, Jack's thoughts raced. The insurgents were more organized and resilient than expected. This mission was far from over, and the danger was far from past. The sun was setting by the time the squad had secured their position. Jack and his team were exhausted but resolute, their makeshift defenses holding firm against any immediate threats. They had managed to inflict significant damage on the insurgent supply base, but the insurgents' regrouping efforts suggested they were far from defeated. Jack sat by the fire, his mind preoccupied with the events of the day. Krill approached and sat down next to him, his expression thoughtful. "You handled yourself well today," Krill said, his tone more respectful than before. "But we've made a lot of enemies. They won't give up easily." Jack nodded. "I know. We've got to stay vigilant. They're regrouping, and they'll likely come back with a stronger force." Krill's eyes were distant, lost in thought. "There's something else. Rumors among the Xel'Naga suggest there might be other factions interested in this conflict. Not just the insurgents." Jack raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Krill hesitated, then continued. "There's talk of external interests, groups or individuals who might see this as an opportunity to further their own agendas. It's possible we're not just dealing with a local rebellion." Jack frowned. "If that's true, it complicates things. We're already stretched thin as it is." Krill nodded. "Exactly. If we're to succeed, we'll need more than just strength. We'll need allies, people who can provide intelligence, support, and maybe even help us turn the tide." Jack thought about this. Allies. But where do we find them? And how do we know we can trust them? Krill looked at him, a hint of a smile on his lips. "Trust is earned, not given. There's a group of neutral mercenaries operating in this region. They've been known to work with various factions, but they value survival above all. They might be willing to make a deal if the price is right." Jack considered this. If they can provide us with the support we need, it could make a difference. "How do we contact them?" Krill pulled out a small device, showing it to Jack. "This is a comm unit with encrypted channels. It's been used to communicate with them in the past. I can set it up, but it will take time to establish contact." Jack nodded. "Do it. We need every advantage we can get." As Krill worked on the comm unit, Jack glanced around at his squad. They were weary but determined, their faces reflecting the harsh reality of their situation. They had achieved a victory, but it was clear that the fight was far from over. The night grew colder as Jack and his team waited for any response from the mercenaries. The forest around them was dark and foreboding, the only sounds being the crackling of the fire and the occasional call of distant creatures. Hours later, as Jack was beginning to lose hope, the comm unit crackled to life. A voice came through, gruff and wary. "Xel'Naga warriors. What do you want?" Jack took a deep breath. "We're in need of assistance. We've been fighting insurgents and need support. If you can help us, we're prepared to negotiate terms." There was a pause on the other end. "Help comes at a price. What are you offering?" Jack glanced at Krill, who gave him a nod of encouragement. "We can offer resources, weapons, and intel. But more importantly, we can offer a chance to influence the outcome of this conflict." The voice was silent for a moment before responding. "Very well. We'll consider your offer. Meet us at the coordinates I'm sending you. But remember, we're not in this for charity." Jack acknowledged the coordinates and turned to Krill. "Let's prepare. We got a meeting to attend." As the squad readied themselves for the journey to the mercenaries' location, Jack felt a mixture of apprehension and hope. Allies in the shadows might be their key to turning the tide, but the risks were high. Trust was a fragile thing, and they would need to be cautious. The forest seemed to close in around them as they set out, the path ahead uncertain. But Jack was determined to see this mission through. no matter what challenges lay ahead. The future of their fight and their survival depended on the decisions they made now. The coordinates led Jack and his squad to a secluded outpost, nestled in a rocky ravine. The area was heavily fortified, with watchtowers and barricades that spoke of a well-prepared force. As they approached, Jack's squad kept their weapons ready, their senses alert for any signs of danger. A figure emerged from the shadows, dressed in dark, utilitarian gear. He had an air of authority, his eyes scanning Jack and his team with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "I'm Varek," the figure said, his voice steady. "You must be the Xel'Naga squad." Jack nodded. "Yes. We're here to discuss potential assistance in our ongoing conflict with the insurgents." Varek's gaze lingered on Jack. "You're the human they're talking about. What makes you think you're worth our time?" Jack met his gaze with equal intensity. "I'm here to offer you a deal. We can provide resources and intel that could benefit your operations. In return, we need support, whether it's additional firepower, tactical guidance, or something else." Varek considered this for a moment. "And why should we trust you? You're fighting the Xel'Naga. Why would we want to help you?" Jack's expression hardened. "Because we're fighting a common enemy. The insurgents aren't just a local problem. They're a threat to everyone in this region. Helping us could shift the balance and ensure that your own interests are protected." Varek's eyes narrowed. "You have a point. But this isn't a charity. What you're offering better be worth the risk." Jack nodded. "I understand. We're prepared to negotiate terms. We need to find a way to make this mutually beneficial." Varek motioned for Jack and his squad to follow him. "Come with me. We'll discuss the details inside." The outpost was a hive of activity, with mercenaries moving about and equipment being prepared for deployment. Jack's squad followed Varek into a command center, where a large table displayed maps and tactical information. As they settled in, Varek began to lay out the terms. "We're interested in the resources you mentioned, specifically weapons and intel. We're also looking for a chance to strike at the insurgents in a way that maximizes our own gain. If you can't provide that, we might be willing to assist." Jack listened carefully. "We can provide weapons and detailed intelligence on insurgent positions and movements. We can also offer tactical support for joint operations. In return, we need your assistance in dealing with the insurgent threat and securing the region." Varek studied Jack for a moment, then nodded. "That sounds reasonable. We'll draft a formal agreement. But be warned, we'll be monitoring your performance closely. If you fail to deliver on your promises, we won't hesitate to cut ties." Jack extended his hand. "Agreed. We'll work together to ensure a successful outcome." Varek shook Jack's hand, his expression neutral. "Then we have a deal. Prepare your squad and gather the resources you promised. We'll coordinate our operations and launch a joint offensive against the insurgents." As Varek and Jack finalized the details, Jack felt a sense of cautious optimism. The alliance with the mercenaries could be the turning point they needed, but also came with its own set of risks. Trust would be hard-earned, and every decision would be critical. As they left the command center, Jack's squad gathered around him, their expressions a mix of hope and apprehension. The next phase of their mission was about to begin, and the stakes were higher than ever. Jack took a deep breath, looking out over the outpost and the rugged landscape beyond. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but it was also filled with the potential for victory. With new allies and renewed determination, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The joint operations between Jack's squad and the mercenaries began in earnest. They coordinated their efforts, combining Xel'Naga firepower with the mercenaries' tactical expertise. The insurgents, still reeling from the assault on their supply base, were caught off guard by the renewed offensive. Jack and his squad moved with precision, attacking key insurgent positions and disrupting their operations. The mercenaries proved to be skilled partners, their knowledge of the terrain and unconventional tactics complementing the Xel'Naga's brute strength. Despite their efforts, the insurgents were resilient. They regrouped quickly, adapting to the new threat and launching counterattacks of their own. Jack found himself in the midst of a fierce battle, his squad working tirelessly to hold their ground. One evening, as they prepared for another push, Krill approached Jack, his expression tense. "We've received intel that the insurgents are planning a major offensive against one of our key outposts. They're trying to cut off our supply lines and weaken our position." Jack frowned. "We need to reinforce that outpost immediately. If they manage to breach it, could turn the tide in their favor." Krill nodded. I'll mobilize the squad. We'll need to move fast. The team quickly gathered their gear and prepared for the urgent mission. They traveled through the rugged terrain, their movements swift and purposeful. As they approached the outpost, Jack could see signs of heavy fighting. The outpost's defenses were being tested, and the situation was critical. Jack and his squad joined a battle, providing support to the beleaguered defenders. The insurgents, aggressive and determined, pressed their attack with ferocity. Jack coordinated with the mercenaries and the Zelnaga forces, working to repel the assault and stabilize the defenses. Amid the chaos, Jack spotted a group of insurgents attempting to breach the outer perimeter. He moved to intercept them, engaging in a fierce firefight. His rifle roared, each shot finding its mark as he worked to push back the attackers. As the battle raged on, Jack noticed a familiar figure among the insurgents, a high-ranking officer he had seen in the earlier skirmishes. The officer seemed to be directing the assault, his presence a critical element in the insurgent strategy. With a surge of determination, Jack made his way toward the officer, navigating through the firefight with careful precision. He spotted the officer and took aim, his heart pounding. With a decisive shot, he took down the officer, disrupting the insurgents' coordination. The impact was immediate. The insurgents, disoriented and leaderless, began to falter. Jack's squad and the defenders pressed their advantage, pushing the insurgents back and reclaiming lost ground. As the battle came to a close, the outpost's defenses held firm. The insurgents, battered and demoralized, were forced to retreat. The immediate threat was subdued, but Jack knew this was just one battle in a larger conflict. In the aftermath, Jack and his squad took stock of their situation. The outpost had been saved, but the cost had been high. The fighting had taken its toll, and the future remained uncertain. Krill approached Jack, his expression a mix of relief and weariness. "We managed to hold the line, but we need to prepare for what's next. The insurgents won't give up easily." Jack nodded. "Agreed. We need to consolidate our gains and prepare for their next move. We'll need to stay vigilant and keep up the pressure." As they regrouped and began to assess their next steps, Jack felt a renewed sense of purpose. The alliance with the mercenaries had proven valuable, and their combined efforts had made a significant impact. But the road ahead was still fraught with danger. Jack glanced at the horizon, where the first light of dawn was breaking through the clouds. The conflict was far from over, but with determination and resilience, they had a chance to secure their position and turn the tide in their favor. The fight for survival continued, and Jack was ready to face whatever came next. In the days following the battle, Jack and his squad worked to fortify their positions and prepare for any further insurgent activity. The joint operations with the mercenaries had been successful, but tensions remained high. Trust was fragile, and every action carried consequences. Jack spent time coordinating with Varek and the mercenaries, ensuring that their efforts were aligned and that the terms of their agreement were being met. The mercenaries were skilled and professional, but their motives were always a point of concern. One evening, as Jack was reviewing reports in the command center, Varek approached him, his expression serious. "We need to talk." Jack looked up from the documents. "What's on your mind?" Varek leaned in, his voice low. "I've received intelligence that suggests there's a power struggle within the insurgent ranks. Some factions are dissatisfied with the current leadership and are looking for ways to negotiate or even surrender. This could be an opportunity for us to exploit." Jack raised an eyebrow. "If there's a chance to fracture their unity, it could make our job easier. But how reliable is this information?" Varek nodded. "It's from a trusted source, but we should verify it before taking any action. If the insurgents are divided, we might be able to leverage that to our advantage." Jack considered this. "We need to approach this carefully. If we can exploit their internal conflicts, we might be able to force a decisive advantage." Varek agreed. "I'll have my people gather more intel and confirm the details. In the meantime, keep your squad on high alert. We can't afford any surprises." Jack nodded. "Understood. I'll inform my team and make sure they're prepared for any developments." As Varek left, Jack felt a mix of hope and apprehension. The potential for a shift in the balance of power was significant, but it also came with risks. The insurgents' internal struggles could be a double-edged sword, and they needed to proceed with caution. Later that evening, Jack gathered his squad to discuss the new information. They listened intently as he outlined the situation and the potential opportunity to exploit the insurgents' internal conflicts. "We need to stay vigilant," Jack said. If there's a chance to weaken the insurgents through their own divisions, we should take it. But we also need to be prepared for any counteractions or traps they might set. Krill nodded, his expression thoughtful. We'll need to coordinate with the mercenaries and ensure we're on the same page. Any misstep could jeopardize everything we've worked for. Jack agreed. I'll reach out to Varek and get the latest updates. In the meantime, let's continue with our preparations and maintain a strong defensive posture. As the squad set to work, Jack felt the weight of the situation pressing on him. The conflict was evolving, and their alliances were crucial to their success. The future remained uncertain, and every decision would be critical. The night grew darker, the air heavy with a promise of more challenges to come. Jack knew that the path ahead would be fraught with difficulties, but with determination and careful strategy, they had a chance to turn the tide and secure their position. The following days were a whirlwind of activity as Jack and his squad prepared for the potential opportunity to exploit the insurgents' internal conflicts. Varek and the mercenaries provided valuable intelligence, confirming that there was indeed a faction within the insurgents seeking negotiations. Jack coordinated with Varek to plan a series of strategic strikes designed to destabilize the insurgents and encourage further fractures within their ranks. The operations were meticulously planned, with a focus on precision and minimal collateral damage. As they prepared for the first strike, a troubling development emerged. One of Jack's squad members, a warrior named Tarek, was acting unusually distant and secretive. Jack had noticed the change in his behavior and decided to confront him. "Tarek, can we talk?" Jack asked, catching him alone in a secluded corner of the camp. Tarek looked up, his expression guarded. "What's up?" Jack's gaze was steady. "I've noticed you've been acting strange lately. Is there something going on?" Tarek shifted uncomfortably. "It's nothing, just dealing with some personal stuff." Jack wasn't convinced. "If there's something you're not telling me, now is the time to speak up. We're in a critical situation, and we can't afford any surprises." Tarek hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. "All right, you've got me. I've been in contact with someone outside the squad, someone who's offered me a different deal. They've promised resources and support if I betray you and the squad." Jack's expression hardened. "You're saying you've been compromised?" Tarek nodded. "I didn't mean for it to happen. The offers were tempting, and I thought I could find a way to play both sides. But now, I don't know how to back out." Jack's anger flared, but he forced himself to remain calm. "You need to tell me everything. Who's making these offers? And what do they want from you?" Tarek looked ashamed. "It's an insurgent contact, someone high up. They've promised to provide me with everything I need if I sabotage the upcoming operations." Jack took a deep breath, his mind racing. "We need to inform the rest of the squad and prepare for any potential betrayals. Tarek, you need to stay put. We can't afford any more complications." Tarek nodded, his eyes downcast. "I understand. I'll cooperate. I just didn't want it to come to this." Jack quickly informed the rest of the squad about the situation, ensuring they were on high alert. They conducted a thorough review of their plans and prepared for any potential breaches in security. The night before the first strike, Jack and his team executed a series of countermeasures to prevent any sabotage. They increased their security protocols and kept a close watch on all communications and movements. As the operation began, Jack's squad moved with precision, executing their planned strikes with efficiency. The insurgents, caught off guard, were pushed back and their efforts to regroup were thwarted. The operations were a success, but Jack remained wary, knowing that Tarek's betrayal had put them at risk. In the aftermath, Varek approached Jack, his expression serious. "The operations went well, but I've heard rumors of increased insurgent activity in response. They're aware of our efforts and are likely planning a counterattack." Jack nodded. "We expected that. We need to prepare for a strong response, and we need to find out if there are any more potential betrayals within our ranks." Varek agreed. "I'll increase my own security measures and ensure our operations are as secure as possible. Trust is a fragile thing, and we need to be cautious." As Jack and his squad regrouped and prepared for the next phase of their mission, the reality of their situation sank in. Betrayal was a harsh reminder of the stakes involved, and every decision was crucial to their survival. The future remained uncertain, but Jack was determined to face the challenges head-on. With careful planning, vigilance, and a renewed sense of purpose, he and his team would continue to fight for their survival and strive to secure a victory in the ongoing conflict. The days following the successful operations were filled with a tense calm as Jack and his squad regrouped and solidified their defenses. They had managed to repel the insurgent counterattacks and maintain their position, but the betrayal of Tarek had left a lingering sense of unease. The night was quiet when Jack received an urgent message from Varek. He quickly gathered his squad to discuss the new developments. Varek's intel suggests that the insurgents have been working on a new weapon, something that could shift the balance of power, Jack said, his voice grim. We need to find out more about this threat and neutralize it before it becomes a problem. Krill raised an eyebrow. A new weapon? Do you have any details on what it is or where it's being developed? Jack shook his head. Not yet. But Varek's source indicated that it's being kept in a heavily guarded facility. We'll need to gather more intelligence and plan a precise strike to neutralize this threat. The squad prepared for a new mission, their focus shifting to the emerging danger. They conducted reconnaissance to gather information on the facility where the weapon was being developed. The site was well protected, surrounded by a series of fortifications and guarded by a significant number of insurgent troops. Jack and his team developed a plan to infiltrate the facility, relying on their skills and the intel provided by Varek. The plan involved a coordinated assault to breach the defenses, secure the weapon, and extract it for further analysis. As they neared the facility, the squad moved with utmost caution, using the cover of darkness to their advantage. They navigated through the terrain, avoiding patrols and surveillance systems. The tension was palpable, each member focused on the task at hand. Upon reaching the facility's perimeter, they found a weak point in the defenses, a maintenance access route that was less guarded. They carefully made their way through the access point, entering the facility undetected. Inside, the squad encountered a maze of corridors and security checkpoints. They used their skills to bypass the security systems and make their way to the central research area. As they approached the room where the weapon was being developed, they encountered a small team of insurgent scientists and engineers working on the device. Jack signaled his team to prepare for a breach. With a coordinated effort, they quickly neutralized the guards and secured the room. Jack examined a weapon, a complex piece of machinery with unknown capabilities. He knew it was crucial to get it out of the facility and back to their base for further analysis. As they prepared to extract the weapon, an alarm blared throughout the facility. The insurgents had discovered the breach and were mobilizing their forces for a counterattack. Move quickly, Jack ordered, as the squad made their way back to the maintenance access route. They encountered heavy resistance as they fought their way out, the insurgents determined to prevent the theft of their weapon. Despite the intense firefight, the squad managed to make it to their extraction point, where they were picked up by a waiting transport. The weapon was secured, and they began the journey back to their base. As they arrived and began analyzing the weapon, the implications of its potential impact became clear. It was a sophisticated piece of technology with the capability to cause widespread devastation. Jack met with Varek to discuss their findings. We've secured the weapon and brought it back for analysis. It's more advanced than we anticipated, and it poses a significant threat if it falls into the wrong hands. Varek's expression was grim. We need to ensure it's neutralized and that the insurgents don't have access to similar technology. We'll need to coordinate with our allies and develop a strategy to counter this new threat. Jack nodded. Agreed. We need to stay ahead of the insurgents and prevent any further escalation. Our next steps will be critical in determining the outcome of this conflict. As they prepared for the next phase of their mission, Jack reflected on the challenges they had faced. The stakes were higher than ever, and the threat of the new weapon was a stark reminder of the dangers they were up against. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but Jack remained resolute. With careful planning and determination, he and his squad would continue to fight for their survival and work to secure a victory in the ongoing conflict. The new weapon had created a sense of urgency within Jack's team. The analysis revealed that it was a prototype for a devastating energy weapon capable of breaching most defenses and causing massive destruction. The insurgents had clearly invested significant resources into its development, and its potential impact could not be underestimated. Jack coordinated with Varek and other allies to develop a plan to neutralize the weapon and prevent the insurgents from further developing similar technology. The plan involved a series of targeted strikes to dismantle their research facilities and disrupt their supply chains. As the team prepared for their operations, a troubling development emerged. Reports indicated that there had been increased insurgent activity in the region with large-scale mobilizations and fortified positions. It seemed the insurgents were preparing for a major offensive, possibly in response to the recent setbacks. Jack convened a meeting with his squad in Varek to discuss their strategy. The insurgents are ramping up their efforts. We need to act quickly and decisively to prevent them from launching a successful offensive. Varek nodded. We've identified several key targets that could weaken their ability to wage war. If we hit these targets, we might be able to disrupt their plans and buy ourselves some time. The plan was set into motion. Jack and his team conducted a series of precision strikes against insurgent supply depots, research facilities, and command centers. Each operation was carefully executed to maximize impact and minimize risk. Despite their efforts, the insurgents seemed to adapt quickly. They began shifting their tactics, using more guerrilla-style operations and hit-and-run attacks to counter Jack's squad. The insurgent leadership appeared to be more organized and coordinated than before. One night, as Jack's squad was resting after a long day of operations, Krill approached with a concerned expression. We've received troubling reports from our scouts. There's evidence that the insurgents are planning a large-scale assault on one of our key outposts. They're mobilizing a significant force. Jack's eyes narrowed. We need to reinforce that outpost immediately. If they launch a successful assault, it could jeopardize everything we've worked for. The squad quickly mobilized, traveling to the outpost to provide support and reinforcements. As they arrived, they found the outpost in a state of high alert, with defenders preparing for the anticipated attack. Jack coordinated with the outpost command and worked to strengthen the defenses. They set up barriers, prepared defensive positions, and planned for potential breaches. As night fell, the insurgent assault began. Waves of attackers, heavily armed and determined, surged against the outpost defenses. The battle was fierce, with both sides engaging in a brutal exchange of fire. Jack and his squad fought valiantly, holding their positions and repelling the insurgents. Despite their efforts, the insurgents' numbers and ferocity tested the limits of the outpost defenses. During the battle, Jack noticed a group of insurgents attempting to breach a weak point in the defenses. He quickly rallied his team and moved to intercept them, engaging in a fierce firefight to prevent them from breaking through. The battle raged on, with casualties mounting on both sides. Jack's squad fought with determination, their efforts crucial in holding the line and preventing the insurgents from achieving a breakthrough. As dawn approached, the insurgent assault began to wane. Exhausted but resolute, Jack and his team continued to defend the outpost until the enemy forces finally withdrew. The immediate threat had been repelled, but the cost had been high. In the aftermath of the battle, Jack and his squad assessed the damage and took stock of their situation. The outpost had survived the assault, but the insurgents' increased aggression was a troubling sign. Varek approached Jack, his expression serious. The insurgents are more organized and determined than ever. We need to adapt our strategies and find a way to stay ahead of their tactics. Jack nodded. Agreed. We need to consolidate our position and prepare for whatever comes next. The fight is far from over. As the squad regrouped and prepared for the next phase of their mission, Jack reflected on the challenges they had faced. The conflict was evolving, and their strategies needed to adapt to the changing circumstances. The future remained uncertain, but with resilience and careful planning, Jack and his team were determined to continue the fight and work towards a decisive victory. The conflict had reached a critical juncture. The insurgents' recent assaults and the discovery of their advanced weapon had escalated the situation to new heights. Jack and his squad continued their efforts to thwart the insurgents' plans, but the pressure was mounting. One day, Jack received a coded message from Varek. It was a warning about a potential security breach within their own ranks. The message hinted at another possible traitor, someone who might be feeding information to the insurgents. Jack gathered his squad and shared the message. We've received intel suggesting there could be another betrayer among us. We need to identify and neutralize the threat before it jeopardizes our operations. Krill's expression darkened. We can't afford any more risks. We need to conduct a thorough review of our security and communications. The squad implemented heightened security measures, including routine checks of personnel and communications. They worked diligently to uncover any signs of betrayal or compromise. As they conducted their investigation, Jack noticed subtle signs of tension and distrust among the squad members. The atmosphere grew strained as everyone became increasingly cautious of each other. Compound. They uncovered documents and communication records that provided crucial insights into the insurgents' plans and operations. As they made their way back to their extraction point, Jack reflected on the significance of their success. The operation had dealt a significant blow to the insurgents, but the conflict was far from over. Back at their base, Jack and his team analyzed the intelligence they had gathered. The information revealed important details about the insurgent strategies, supply routes, and future plans. It also provided leads on potential allies who could support their efforts. Varric joined Jack for a debriefing. The operation was a success, and the intelligence we've gathered is invaluable. We have a clearer picture of the insurgents' operations and can plan our next moves more effectively. One evening, as Jack reviewed the security logs, he discovered a pattern of unusual communications. It appeared that one of their team members had been in contact with an unknown source, raising suspicions about their loyalty. Jack called a meeting with the key members of his squad. We found evidence of suspicious communications. We need to identify the source and determine who might be involved. The team conducted a thorough investigation, scrutinizing the communication logs and cross-referencing them with known insurgent contacts. The evidence led them to a troubling conclusion. The traitor was none other than Tarek, the same squad member who had previously been compromised. Jack was conflicted. Tarek had been a trusted member of their team, and his betrayal had deepened the sense of betrayal within the squad. The revelations were painful, but Jack knew they had to act decisively. He confronted Tarek in a secure location. "We've uncovered your connections with the insurgents. Why did you betray us again?" Tarek's expression was a mix of shame and defiance. "I thought I could redeem myself, but the pressure was too much. The insurgents threatened my family, and I couldn't resist their demands." Jack's anger flared, but he remained composed. "You put us all at risk. You need to face the consequences of your actions." Tarek's eyes were filled with regret. "I understand. I'm willing to cooperate and provide any information I can to help mitigate the damage." Jack made the difficult decision to detain Tarek and ensure that he could no longer compromise their operations. The squad continued their efforts to secure their position and counter the insurgents' plans. In the aftermath of the betrayal, the squad's morale was shaken, but they remained focused on their mission. They redoubled their efforts to strengthen their defenses and prepare for the insurgents' next moves. As Jack reflected on the recent events, he realized that the conflict was not only a battle against the insurgents, but also a struggle to maintain trust and unity within his own ranks. The challenges were formidable, but with determination and resilience, he and his squad were committed to overcoming the obstacles and working towards a decisive victory. The future remained uncertain, but Jack knew that their resolve and unity would be crucial in the days ahead. The fight was far from over, and every step they took would shape the outcome of the ongoing conflict. The revelations of betrayal and the increasing insurgent aggression had pushed Jack and his squad to their limits. As they regrouped and refocused on their mission, they knew that they needed a breakthrough to turn the tide in their favor. Varric's intelligence had identified a critical target, a high-ranking insurgent leader who was instrumental in coordinating their operations and developing their advanced weaponry. Taking down this leader could disrupt the insurgents' plans and potentially lead to a shift in the balance of power. Jack and his squad meticulously planned an operation to eliminate the insurgent leader. The target was located in a heavily fortified compound, guarded by elite insurgent forces. The operation would require precision and coordination to succeed. As they prepared for the mission, Jack's team reviewed their strategy and rehearsed their roles. The operation was designed to be a high-risk, high-reward endeavor. The goal was to infiltrate the compound, neutralize the leader, and extract valuable intelligence. The night of the operation arrived. Jack and his team moved with stealth and precision, making their way to the compound's perimeter. They bypassed security measures and infiltrated the compound, avoiding detection. Inside, they navigated through the complex, using their skills to neutralize guards and avoid security systems. Their objective was clear: reach the leader's quarters and eliminate the target. As they approached the leader's location, they encountered heavy resistance. The insurgents were prepared for an assault, and a fierce firefight ensued. Jack and his squad fought their way through, determined to reach their target. In the midst of the battle, Jack found himself face-to-face with the insurgent leader. The confrontation was intense, with both sides engaging in a brutal exchange. Jack's training and experience gave him the edge, and he managed to neutralize the leader. With the leader eliminated, Jack and his squad quickly gathered valuable intelligence from them. Jack nodded. "We need to use this information to strengthen our position and continue our efforts to counter the insurgents. The conflict is still ongoing, and we need to remain vigilant." As the squad prepared for the next phase of their mission, The recent successes provided a renewed sense of hope. The turning point had been reached, and with careful planning and determination, they were ready to face the challenges ahead. The future remained uncertain, but Jack and his team were resolute in their commitment to achieving victory. Every step they took would shape the outcome of the conflict, and they were prepared to continue the fight with unwavering resolve. The insurgents' recent setbacks had created an opportunity for Jack and his squad. With the valuable intelligence they had acquired, they were now in a position to forge new alliances and strengthen their network of support. Varric had arranged a meeting with several key figures who were influential in the region. The goal was to solidify partnerships with local factions and gain their support in the fight against the insurgents. Jack and his squad traveled to a neutral meeting location, a secure facility on the outskirts of the region. The facility was heavily guarded, reflecting the importance of the discussions taking place within its walls. Upon arrival, Jack and his team were greeted by a group of representatives from various factions. Among them were local leaders, military commanders, and influential figures who held sway over different areas. Varric introduced Jack and his team to the representatives. "This is Jack, our field commander. He's been leading operations against the insurgents and has played a crucial role in recent successes." The representatives exchanged greetings and expressed their willingness to collaborate. Jack understood that building trust and forming alliances would be key to their success. The discussions focused on a coordinated strategy to combat the insurgents. Each faction brought its own strengths and resources to the table, and the goal was to create a unified front against their common enemy. As the meetings progressed, Jack found himself navigating a complex web of interests and rivalries. Some factions were eager to cooperate, while others were cautious and skeptical of the proposed alliances. One of the key figures, a local warlord named Hassan, was particularly influential. He controlled a significant territory and had the resources to make a substantial impact. However, his motivations and loyalties were uncertain. Jack and his team worked to address Hassan's concerns and build a rapport with him. They emphasized the importance of unity and the shared goal of defeating the insurgents. Hassan, though wary, agreed to provide support in exchange for certain guarantees. He wanted assurances that his interests would be protected and that he would have a say in the strategic decisions. With the alliances forming and support being secured, Jack's team began to plan joint operations with their new partners. The goal was to leverage their combined resources and expertise to launch coordinated strikes against the insurgents. The first joint operation was a raid on a major insurgent supply depot. The target was crucial for disrupting the insurgents' logistics and cutting off their access to essential resources. Jack coordinated with Hassan and other faction leaders to plan the operation. The assault was carefully timed to maximize its impact and minimize risks. As the operation unfolded, Jack's squad worked alongside their new allies. The combined forces made a significant impact, successfully dismantling the supply depot and capturing valuable resources. The success of the operation bolstered the confidence of the new allies and demonstrated the effectiveness of their collaboration. It also sent a strong message to the insurgents that the tide was turning against them. However, the alliances were not without challenges. The different factions had their own agendas and rivalries, which occasionally created friction and complications. Jack and his team had to navigate these complexities carefully, balancing the needs and interests of their allies while maintaining a unified focus on the primary objective, defeating the insurgents. As the weeks progressed, the joint efforts continued to yield positive results. The combined operations led to further disruptions in the insurgent supply lines and infrastructure. The momentum was shifting in favor of Jack and his allies. Yet, amid the successes, there were ongoing concerns about potential betrayals and internal conflicts. Jack remained vigilant and worked to address any issues that arose within the alliance. The collaboration with local factions proved to be a significant asset in the fight against the insurgents. The combined strength of their forces created a formidable challenge for the insurgent leadership. Jack knew that maintaining the alliances and addressing any emerging conflicts would be crucial in the days ahead. The fight against the insurgents was far from over, and every victory brought them closer to achieving their ultimate goal. With insurgent supply lines disrupted and their operations increasingly hampered by Jack's coordinated efforts with local allies, the insurgent leadership knew they had to act decisively to regain control. A counterattack was imminent, and the situation was about to become even more intense. Jack and his squad, along with their allied forces, were on high alert. They had been expecting a response from the insurgents, but the scale and ferocity of the upcoming counterattack were still unknown. Intelligence reports indicated that the insurgents were mobilizing a large force, preparing for a coordinated assault on several key positions, including one of the major strongholds that Jack's squad had recently established. Varek convened a meeting with Jack and the other faction leaders to discuss the impending counterattack. The insurgents are preparing for a major offensive. We need to fortify our defenses and develop a strategy to counter their assault. Jack nodded in agreement. We need to anticipate their movements and be ready to adapt. We've had success in disrupting their operations, but this will be a critical test of our defenses and coordination. The team worked diligently to strengthen their positions, reinforcing fortifications and preparing defensive measures. They also coordinated with their allies to ensure that they could respond effectively to the insurgents' movements. As the day of the counterattack approached, the atmosphere was tense. Jack and his squad were on edge, knowing that the insurgents would be bringing their full force to bear. The insurgent assault began with a massive bombardment, targeting key positions and causing significant damage. The intensity of the attack was overwhelming, and the combined forces had to work quickly to adapt and respond. Jack's squad fought bravely, holding their ground and repelling the insurgents' initial waves. The defenses were tested to their limits as the insurgents pressed their attack with determination. The battle was chaotic, with both sides engaging in fierce combat. Jack and his team moved strategically, coordinating their efforts to respond to the insurgents' tactics and counter their advances. Amidst the fighting, Jack received a distress signal from one of their allied factions. They were under heavy attack and required immediate assistance. Jack made a decision to redirect some of his forces to provide support, balancing the needs of multiple fronts. The battle raged on throughout the day and into the night. The combined forces faced relentless attacks, but their unity and determination allowed them to hold their positions and push back the insurgents. As dawn approached, the intensity of the assault began to wane. The insurgents, though determined, were facing mounting resistance and struggled to maintain their momentum. Jack and his squad continued to fight valiantly, leading counterattacks and coordinating with their allies to drive the insurgents back. The combined efforts of their forces proved to be effective, and the insurgent offensive began to falter. By the end of the day, the insurgents had been forced to retreat, their counterattack repelled by the determined defense of Jack and his allies. The cost of the battle had been high, but the defense had been successful. In the aftermath of the counterattack, Jack and his team assessed the damage and began the process of rebuilding and regrouping. The insurgents' response had been fierce, but the combined strength of their forces had proven to be a formidable challenge. Varek and the other faction leaders joined Jack for a debriefing. We've managed to hold our ground, but the insurgents are likely to regroup and plan their next move. We need to remain vigilant and continue our efforts. Jack nodded. Agreed. The battle has shown the resilience of our defenses and the strength of our alliances. We need to use this momentum to continue our fight and prepare for whatever comes next. As the squad prepared for the ongoing conflict, Jack reflected on the challenges they had faced. The counterattack had been a harsh reminder of the insurgents' determination and the scale of the conflict. Despite the difficulties, Jack remained resolute. With their alliances strengthened and their defenses proven, he and his team were ready to face the ongoing challenges and work towards achieving a decisive victory. The aftermath of the insurgents' counterattack had left Jack and his team with a renewed sense of urgency. Although they had successfully defended their positions, the conflict was far from over, and new threats were emerging. In the days following the battle, Varek's intelligence indicated that the insurgents were not only regrouping, but also planning a more insidious strategy. There were reports of a covert operation involving a hidden threat that could undermine their recent successes. Jack and his squad focused on uncovering the details of this new threat. They conducted thorough investigations, analyzed intelligence, and coordinated with their allies to gather more information. One evening, as Jack reviewed the latest reports, he came across a disturbing revelation. The insurgents were developing a covert network of sleeper agents who were strategically placed within various key locations, including Allied territories. The existence of these sleeper agents posed a significant risk. If activated, they could sabotage operations, disrupt alliances, and create internal chaos. Jack convened a meeting with Varek and other key figures. We've uncovered evidence of a covert network of sleeper agents. We need to identify and neutralize these agents before they can cause significant damage. Varek agreed, his expression serious. This is a serious threat. We need to implement counterintelligence measures and work closely with our allies to root out these agents. The team initiated a comprehensive counterintelligence operation. They conducted thorough background checks on personnel, reviewed communications, and increased surveillance to detect any signs of infiltration. Jack's squad also worked to build trust with their allies, emphasizing the importance of vigilance and cooperation. They shared information and coordinated efforts to identify any potential sleeper agents within their ranks. The investigation led to several leads and potential suspects. Jack and his team conducted covert operations to verify the identities and activities of the individuals under suspicion. During one operation, they identified a key suspect who had been involved in recent sabotage activities. The individual, a member of a local faction, was apprehended and interrogated. The interrogation revealed crucial information about the sleeper network. The agent provided details about the locations of other infiltrators and their planned activities. Jack and his team acted quickly to address the threats. Coordinated operations were launched to neutralize the remaining sleeper agents and disrupt their activities. The efforts were successful in preventing further sabotage and minimizing the impact of the covert network. In the aftermath of the counterintelligence operation, Jack and his squad reflected on the challenges they had faced. The discovery of the hidden threat had been a stark reminder of the complexities of the conflict and the need for constant vigilance. Varric joined Jack for a debriefing. "We've managed to address the sleeper threat, but the insurgents will likely adapt and continue their efforts. We need to stay proactive and anticipate their next moves." Jack nodded. "Agreed. We've made significant progress, but the conflict is ongoing. We need to remain focused and continue our efforts to achieve our objectives." As Jack and his team prepared for the next phase of their mission, they were aware of the ongoing challenges and the need to stay ahead of their adversaries. The fight was far from over, and every step they took would be crucial in shaping the outcome of the conflict. The future remained uncertain, but with their resolve and determination, Jack and his squad were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The hidden threat had been addressed, but the conflict continued, and their commitment to victory remained unwavering. The aftermath of the counterintelligence operation had brought a temporary calm, but Jack and his squad knew that the insurgents would not remain idle. The conflict had reached a critical juncture, and the next moves from both sides would be crucial. Jack and his team had successfully neutralized the sleeper agents, but they needed to capitalize on their momentum and push forward. With the insurgent supply lines still disrupted and their internal sabotage efforts thwarted, it was time to consider a decisive offensive. Varric and the other faction leaders gathered to discuss their next steps. The mood was determined but cautious, understanding the high stakes involved. "We've had a series of successes, but now we need to consider our strategic options. We can't afford to rest on our laurels," Varric said. Jack agreed. "We need to exploit the current situation to our advantage. If we can deliver a decisive blow to the insurgents, it could shift the balance of power." The team began planning a major offensive operation aimed at targeting critical insurgent stronghold. The stronghold was a key strategic location that housed high-value assets and command centers. Capturing or destroying it would significantly weaken the insurgents' operational capabilities. The planning process was intricate. Jack's squad worked closely with their allies to gather intelligence, assess the stronghold's defenses, and develop a coordinated strategy. They utilized reconnaissance data, satellite imagery, and on-the-ground intelligence to create a detailed plan. The offensive was set to be a multi-phased operation. The first phase involved a diversionary assault to draw the insurgents' attention away from the primary target. This would create an opportunity for the main assault team to breach the stronghold. As the operation began, the diversionary assaults were executed with precision. The insurgents' defenses were stretched thin as they responded to the false threats, allowing Jack and his squad to move into position for the main attack. The main assault team, equipped with advanced breaching tools and heavy weaponry, advanced towards the stronghold. The operation was coordinated with aerial support and artillery fire to provide cover and suppress enemy defenses. Jack and his team faced fierce resistance as they breached the stronghold's perimeter. The insurgents were well prepared and fought back with determination. The battle was intense, with both sides exchanging heavy fire and engaging in close-quarters combat. Despite the challenges, Jack's squad pressed forward, overcoming obstacles and pushing deeper into the stronghold. The coordinated efforts of the Allied forces played a crucial role in maintaining momentum and securing key positions. As the battle unfolded, Jack encountered a significant obstacle, a heavily fortified command center within the stronghold. The center housed critical insurgent leadership and command infrastructure. Determined to complete the mission, Jack led a focused assault on the command center. The fighting was intense, but the combined strength of their forces proved to be overwhelming. The command center was successfully secured, and key insurgent leaders were captured or eliminated. The success of the operation was a significant turning point. The capture or destruction of the stronghold had a profound impact on the insurgents' capabilities and morale. The disruption of their command and control infrastructure weakened their ability to coordinate and respond effectively. In the aftermath of the offensive, Jack and his squad assessed the results and began the process of consolidating their gains. The stronghold's capture provided valuable resources and strategic advantages for their ongoing efforts. Varric and the faction leaders praised Jack and his team for their successful operation. "This was a major achievement," Varric said. "We've struck a significant blow against the insurgents, but we need to remain vigilant and continue our efforts." Jack nodded. "Agreed. This is a critical moment, but we can't afford to become complacent. We need to build on this success and stay focused on our objectives." As the conflict continued, Jack and his squad were prepared to face the ongoing challenges. The turning tide had created new opportunities, and their commitment to achieving a decisive victory remained unwavering. The capture of the insurgent stronghold had delivered a major blow to their operations, but the insurgents were resilient. Despite their setbacks, they were regrouping and preparing for a resurgence. The recent successes had shifted the balance of power, but the insurgents were determined to regain control. Jack and his squad, along with their allies, continued their efforts to consolidate their gains and strengthen their positions. They worked to repair and fortify their defenses, secure newly captured territories, and maintain the momentum of their recent victories. However, intelligence reports indicated that the insurgents were not only regrouping but also adapting their strategies. They were employing new tactics and leveraging remaining resources to launch a series of counteroffensives. One morning, Jack received urgent reports of a large-scale insurgent offensive targeting several key locations that had recently been secured. The resurgence was well coordinated, with multiple fronts opening up simultaneously. Jack and his team mobilized quickly to respond to the threat. They coordinated with their allies and implemented defensive measures to protect the vulnerable positions. The insurgent offensive began with a series of coordinated attacks, utilizing both conventional forces and guerrilla tactics. The fighting was intense, with insurgents employing hit-and-run tactics and exploiting weaknesses in the defenses. Jack and his squad were engaged in fierce combat as they worked to repel the insurgent attacks. The resilience of the insurgents was evident, and the battles were challenging as they faced a determined and adaptive enemy. In addition to the direct attacks, the insurgents employed psychological warfare and propaganda to undermine the morale of Jack's forces and their allies. They spread misinformation and attempted to create divisions within the ranks. Jack recognized the importance of maintaining morale and unity. He and his team worked to counter the insurgents' propaganda, providing clear communication and support to their allies. They emphasized the progress they had made and the importance of staying focused on their objectives. The insurgent resurgence was a reminder of the complexity of the conflict. The battlefronts were fluid, and the insurgents were demonstrating their ability to adapt and respond to setbacks. Despite the challenges, Jack's squad remained resolute. They continued to fight with determination, leveraging their experience and coordination to address the insurgent threats. As the insurgent offensives unfolded, Jack's team focused on key priorities. They prioritized defending critical locations, protecting key infrastructure, and countering the insurgents' tactics. Over time, the combined efforts of Jack's squad and their allies began to turn the tide once again. They were able to stabilize their defenses, repel the insurgent attacks, and regain control of the contested areas. In a debriefing with Varric and the other faction leaders, Jack assessed the situation. "The insurgent resurgence has been challenging, but we've managed to hold our ground and stabilize the situation. We need to continue adapting our strategies and maintaining our focus." Varric nodded in agreement. "We faced significant resistance, but our resilience has been proven. We need to stay vigilant and continue our efforts to achieve a decisive victory." Jack's team continued their operations with renewed determination. The insurgent resurgence had tested their resolve, but they remained committed to their mission. The conflict was ongoing, and every effort was crucial in shaping the outcome. As they prepared for the next phase of their mission, Jack and his squad understood that the path to victory would require ongoing dedication, adaptability, and perseverance. The fight against the insurgents was far from over, and their commitment to achieving their objectives remained steadfast. With the insurgent resurgence and the ongoing conflict, Jack and his team faced not only military challenges, but also the complex dynamics of diplomacy and negotiations. The recent battles had demonstrated the resilience of the insurgents, and it was clear that a comprehensive approach would be needed to bring about a resolution. Varek and the other faction leaders discussed the possibility of engaging in diplomatic negotiations with the insurgent leadership. The goal was to explore avenues for a potential settlement or ceasefire, given the high cost of continued conflict and the need for a sustainable resolution. Jack was initially skeptical of the idea. Negotiations can be tricky. We need to be cautious and ensure that any diplomatic efforts don't undermine our position or give the insurgents an advantage. Varek acknowledged Jack's concerns but emphasized the importance of exploring all options. Negotiations could potentially lead to a resolution or at least a temporary ceasefire, which would allow us to stabilize the situation and address other issues. The team agreed to proceed with a cautious approach. They began preparations for potential negotiations, including developing strategies for engaging with the insurgent leadership and assessing the conditions for a potential settlement. A neutral location was chosen for the talks, and representatives from both sides were invited to participate. The negotiations would be facilitated by a neutral mediator to ensure a fair and balanced process. Jack and his team worked closely with Varek and the other faction leaders to prepare for the negotiations. They developed a clear agenda and objectives for the talks, outlining their key priorities and red lines. As the day of the negotiations arrived, Jack and his team traveled to the neutral location. The atmosphere was tense, and the stakes were high. The outcome of the talks could significantly impact the future of the conflict. The negotiations began with formal introductions and an overview of the agenda. The mediator facilitated the discussions, allowing both sides to present their positions and concerns. The insurgent leadership, represented by a key figure named Amir, presented their demands and objectives. Amir was a charismatic and influential leader, and his presence added a layer of complexity to the negotiations. Jack and his team engaged in discussions with Amir and his representatives, addressing the insurgents' demands while emphasizing their own priorities. The talks were challenging, with both sides presenting strong arguments and maintaining firm positions. One of the key issues was the potential for a ceasefire and the conditions under which it could be implemented. Both sides had different views on what would constitute a fair and sustainable agreement. As the negotiations progressed, there were moments of tension and disagreement. However, there were also opportunities for compromise and potential areas of common ground. Jack and his team worked to identify potential solutions and concessions that could address the concerns of both sides. They focused on finding mutually acceptable terms for a ceasefire or a temporary agreement. The negotiations continued over several days, with breaks for discussions and consultations. The process was demanding, but Jack remained committed to finding a resolution that could bring stability and reduce the conflict's impact. In a pivotal moment, a tentative agreement was reached on a framework for a ceasefire. The terms included provisions for monitoring and verification, as well as mechanisms for addressing potential violations. The agreement was not without its challenges, and there were still many details to be worked out. However, it represented a significant step towards reducing the immediate hostilities and creating an opportunity for further discussions. As the negotiations concluded, Jack and his team returned to their base to assess the outcome and plan for the implementation of the agreement. The ceasefire represented a temporary but important opportunity to stabilize the situation and address other pressing issues. Varek and the faction leaders expressed their cautious optimism about the agreement. "This is a positive development," Varek said. "It's an opportunity to reduce the conflict and work towards a more comprehensive resolution." Jack acknowledged the progress but remained vigilant. The ceasefire is a step forward, but we need to ensure that it's implemented effectively and that we remain prepared for any potential challenges. The diplomatic gamble had opened a new chapter in the conflict. The ceasefire represented a chance for a temporary respite and a foundation for further negotiations. Jack and his team remained focused on their objectives, understanding that the path to a lasting resolution would require continued effort, vigilance, and adaptability. As they moved forward, Jack and his squad prepared to navigate the complexities of the evolving situation, balancing their military responsibilities with the challenges of diplomacy and negotiation. The future of the conflict remained uncertain, but their commitment to achieving a just and sustainable resolution continued to guide their efforts. The ceasefire, though promising, brought with it a complex web of challenges. As Jack and his team adjusted to the new dynamics, They were faced with a crucial task, ensuring the ceasefire was adhered to and that any breaches were addressed promptly. The initial days of the ceasefire were tense but relatively stable. Both sides worked to implement the terms of the agreement, and there were visible efforts to de-escalate the situation. However, the fragile peace was threatened by the possibility of internal dissent and hidden agendas. Jack's team was tasked with monitoring key areas to ensure compliance. They were also responsible for gathering intelligence to identify any signs of violations or attempts to undermine the agreement. Despite the ceasefire, the potential for covert operations and sabotage remained high. It wasn't long before Jack received troubling reports of unexplained activities in one of the recently stabilized areas. Intelligence suggested that there might be factions within both the Allied forces and the insurgents that were not fully committed to the ceasefire. Jack and his squad initiated a covert investigation. They conducted discreet reconnaissance and gathered information from various sources. The investigation led them to a series of clandestine meetings and communications that hinted at possible betrayals and hidden agendas. One evening, while reviewing intercepted communications, Jack uncovered a critical piece of information. There were indications that some members of their own allied faction might be involved in undermining the ceasefire. These members appeared to be collaborating with rogue elements within the insurgent ranks. Jack faced a difficult decision. The potential betrayal from within could jeopardize the entire ceasefire and the progress made. He knew that addressing the issue required careful handling to avoid further escalation and to maintain trust among the Allied forces. Jack convened a secure meeting with Varric and key faction leaders to discuss the situation. "We've uncovered evidence suggesting that some individuals within our ranks might be working against the ceasefire," Jack said. "This is a serious concern, and we need to address it before it undermines our efforts." Varric's expression was one of concern. "If there are internal threats, we need to identify and neutralize them quickly. But we must be careful not to make accusations without solid evidence. We risk fracturing our own alliances if we're not cautious." Jack agreed. "We'll need to proceed with a targeted investigation. We must identify the key players involved and understand their motivations. It's crucial that we maintain a unified front and avoid unnecessary conflict within our ranks." The investigation intensified, focusing on identifying the individuals involved and their connections. Jack and his team worked to gather more evidence and verify the information. They used covert surveillance and intelligence gathering to uncover the extent of the betrayal. As they delved deeper, they identified a small group of individuals within the Allied faction who were working with insurgent sympathizers. Their activities included covert communications, supply chains, and secret meetings designed to undermine the ceasefire. Jack's team developed a plan to neutralize the threat while minimizing disruption. They coordinated with trusted allies to execute a series of precise actions, including arrests and the dismantling of covert networks. The operation was executed with precision, leading to the apprehension of the key individuals involved in the betrayal. The compromised networks were dismantled, and measures were put in place to prevent future breaches. In a debriefing with Varric and the faction leaders, Jack reported the results of the operation. "We've identified and neutralized the individuals involved in undermining the ceasefire. The immediate threat has been addressed, but we must remain vigilant." Varric expressed his gratitude and emphasized the importance of moving forward. "We've dealt with a serious threat, but the ceasefire remains a critical step towards a resolution. We need to use this opportunity to build trust and work towards a lasting peace." Jack and his team continued their efforts to support the ceasefire and address any remaining challenges. The shadows of betrayal had been confronted, but the path to a comprehensive resolution remained complex and uncertain. As the situation evolved, Jack remained committed to navigating the intricate dynamics of the conflict. The fragile peace required ongoing vigilance, and the challenges ahead would test their resolve and adaptability. The ceasefire had provided a temporary respite, but it was clear that the path to a lasting resolution would require more than just an agreement on paper. The fragile alliance between the factions needed to be strengthened, and trust had to be built amidst the complexities of the conflict. Jack and his squad were tasked with facilitating dialogues and fostering cooperation between the Allied factions. The goal was to create a united front that could effectively address the remaining challenges and work towards a sustainable resolution. The diplomatic efforts involve a series of meetings and collaborative projects aimed at building mutual understanding and cooperation. Jack and his team worked closely with Varric and other key leaders to identify common goals and address areas of disagreement. One of the major challenges was reconciling the different interests and priorities of the factions. While the ceasefire had created a foundation for cooperation, there were still underlying tensions and conflicting agendas that needed to be managed. Jack organized a series of joint exercises and training sessions to promote teamwork and build camaraderie among the Allied forces. These activities were designed to improve coordination and strengthen the bonds between the different factions. During one of the joint exercises, Jack observed firsthand the complexities of managing the alliance. Differences in tactics, communication styles, and operational priorities created occasional friction. However, the shared commitment to achieving a resolution helped to overcome these challenges. The alliance-building efforts also included addressing internal grievances and addressing concerns raised by individual faction members. Jack facilitated discussions and provided support to resolve disputes and build a sense of collective purpose. As the alliance strengthened, Jack's team worked to address remaining threats and challenges. They continued to monitor the situation, gather intelligence, and respond to any potential breaches of the ceasefire. One particularly challenging aspect was managing the expectations of both the Allied factions and the broader population. The ceasefire had brought hope, but it also created pressure to deliver tangible results and address long-standing issues. Jack and his squad engaged with local communities and stakeholders to understand their concerns and aspirations. They worked to address grievances and build trust with the population, recognizing that their support was crucial for the long-term success of the resolution. In one significant meeting, Jack and Varek met with community leaders and representatives to discuss the impact of the ceasefire and the path forward. The discussion was open and candid, with community leaders expressing both hope and skepticism. Varek addressed the concerns directly. "We understand the challenges and the need for tangible results. Our commitment is to work together to address your concerns and ensure that the ceasefire leads to meaningful progress." Jack added, "We're here to listen and work with you. Your input is valuable, and we're committed to addressing the issues that matter to you." The dialogue was productive and helped to build a foundation for continued cooperation. The community leaders expressed cautious optimism and a willingness to support the efforts to achieve a lasting resolution. As the alliance continued to evolve, Jack and his team remained focused on their objectives. The fragile peace was a delicate balance, and every effort was made to maintain stability and address emerging challenges. The path to a sustainable resolution was ongoing, and the dynamics of the conflict remained complex. Jack's commitment to fostering cooperation and addressing the diverse needs of the factions and communities was crucial in navigating the challenges ahead. The fragile alliance had weathered numerous challenges, but the pressure to deliver results and move towards a lasting resolution was mounting. The ceasefire had created an opportunity, but it was clear that decisive action was needed to capitalize on the progress made. Jack and his squad, along with their allies, recognized the importance of seizing the moment. The next steps involve a coordinated effort to address key issues and implement measures that would solidify the progress and pave the way for a comprehensive resolution. The focus of the efforts was on three main areas: addressing remaining threats, implementing confidence-building measures, and preparing for the next phase of negotiations. Jack's team continued to monitor the situation and address any potential breaches of the ceasefire. They worked closely with intelligence and security forces to prevent any attempts to disrupt the fragile peace. Confidence-building measures were a crucial component of the strategy. These measures included initiatives aimed at fostering trust and cooperation between the factions and the local population. Projects such as joint infrastructure development, community engagement, and humanitarian aid were implemented to demonstrate a commitment to positive change. One of the key initiatives was a joint reconstruction project in a region that had been heavily affected by the conflict. The project aimed to rebuild essential infrastructure and provide support to displaced communities. The collaborative effort helped to address immediate needs and create a sense of shared purpose. As the project progressed, it became a symbol of the positive impact of the ceasefire and the potential for a better future. The joint efforts of the factions and the support from the local population contributed to a sense of hope and optimism. The preparations for the next phase of negotiations were also underway. The goal was to build on the progress made and address key issues that had been left unresolved. Jack and his team worked with Varek and other leaders to develop a comprehensive strategy for the upcoming negotiations. The negotiations were scheduled to address several critical topics, including long-term security arrangements, political reforms, and reconciliation measures. The aim was to reach a comprehensive agreement that would address the underlying issues and provide a framework for sustainable peace. As the day of the negotiations approached, Jack and his team reviewed their strategy and prepared for the discussions. The negotiations would involve representatives from both sides, as well as international mediators to ensure a fair and balanced process. On the day of the negotiations, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The discussions were held in a neutral location, and the parties involved were prepared to engage in meaningful dialogue. The negotiations began with a review of the progress made since the ceasefire and an overview of the key issues to be addressed. Jack and his team participated in the discussions, working to find common ground and address the concerns of both sides. The negotiations were intense and challenging, but there were moments of breakthrough and progress. Both sides demonstrated a willingness to engage and seek solutions to the complex issues at hand. After several days of discussions, a significant breakthrough was achieved. The parties reached a preliminary agreement on several key issues, including security arrangements, political reforms, and reconciliation measures. The agreement represented a significant step forward and provided a framework for continued negotiations and implementation. It was a testament to the efforts of Jack, his team, and their allies in navigating the complexities of the conflict and working towards a sustainable resolution. As the negotiations concluded, Jack and his team reflected on the progress made and the challenges ahead. The turning point represented a crucial opportunity to build on the achievements and work towards a lasting and comprehensive resolution. The road ahead remained complex, but the commitment to achieving a just and sustainable peace continued to guide their efforts. Jack and his squad prepared to navigate the next phase of the process, balancing their military responsibilities with the ongoing challenges of diplomacy and negotiation. The preliminary agreement reached in the recent negotiations marked a significant milestone, but it was just the beginning of a complex process. The real challenge lay in the implementation of the agreement and the ongoing efforts to reconcile differences and build lasting peace. Jack and his team were deeply involved in the transition from negotiation to implementation. The framework of the agreement needed to be translated into concrete actions, and various aspects required careful coordination and execution. The first priority was to ensure that the security arrangements outlined in the agreement were put into effect. This involved the establishment of joint security forces, the integration of former combatants, and the creation of mechanisms to monitor and address any potential violations. Jack worked closely with Varric and other leaders to oversee the establishment of these arrangements. They coordinated the deployment of joint security teams and ensured that former combatants received appropriate training and support to facilitate their integration into the new system. One of the key challenges was managing the transition of security responsibilities from the military to the newly formed joint forces. This required careful planning and coordination to ensure a smooth handover and to maintain stability during the transition. In parallel, efforts were made to address the political reforms outlined in the agreement. This included the drafting of new legislation, the formation of inclusive governance structures, and the establishment of mechanisms for public participation and accountability. Jack's team was actively involved in supporting the political reform process. They facilitated discussions between various political stakeholders and worked to ensure that the reforms were implemented in a manner that addressed the diverse needs and aspirations of the population. Reconciliation efforts were also a crucial component of the process. The agreement emphasized the importance of healing the divisions caused by the conflict and promoting understanding and cooperation among different communities. Jack and his team supported various reconciliation initiatives, including community dialogues, truth and reconciliation commissions, and joint cultural events. These initiatives aimed to build bridges between divided communities and foster a sense of shared identity and purpose. One particularly impactful initiative was the establishment of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The commission was tasked with investigating human rights violations, providing a platform for victims and perpetrators to share their experiences, and recommending measures for accountability and reparations. The commission's work was challenging and emotional, but it played a crucial role in acknowledging the suffering caused by the conflict and promoting healing and understanding. Jack and his team supported the commission's efforts and worked to ensure that the process was conducted with fairness and transparency. As the implementation of the agreement progressed, Jack and his team continued to monitor the situation and address any emerging issues. They worked to maintain communication with all parties involved and to ensure that the agreed-upon measures were being effectively carried out. Despite the progress made, there were still challenges and obstacles to overcome. The process of reconciliation and implementation was complex and required ongoing effort and commitment from all sides. Jack remained focused on the long-term goal of achieving a sustainable and just peace. The road to reconciliation was ongoing, and every step taken was an opportunity to build a better future and address the underlying issues that had fueled the conflict. As the implementation of the agreement continued, the challenges of transition became increasingly apparent. The shift from conflict to peace brought with it a range of issues that required careful management and coordination. One of the major challenges was ensuring that the newly established joint security forces operated effectively and maintained stability. The integration of former combatants into these forces required ongoing training, support, and oversight to ensure that they could carry out their duties effectively. Jack and his team worked closely with the leadership of the Joint Security Forces to address any issues and to provide support where needed. They coordinated training programs, facilitated communication between different factions, and addressed any concerns that arose during the transition. Another significant challenge was managing the expectations of the population. The ceasefire and agreement had created hope for a better future, but there were also high expectations for tangible improvements in living conditions, governance, and economic opportunities. Jack and his team engaged with communities to understand their concerns and to address any issues that arose. They worked to ensure that the benefits of the agreement were being realized and that the population felt engaged and supported throughout the transition process. Economic recovery and development were also critical components of the transition. The conflict had left many areas in disarray, and rebuilding infrastructure, providing essential services, and creating economic opportunities were essential for promoting stability and prosperity. Jack's team supported various development initiatives, including infrastructure projects, economic aid programs, and support for small businesses. They worked to coordinate efforts and to ensure that resources were allocated effectively to address the needs of the affected communities. One particularly challenging aspect was managing the reintegration of former combatants into civilian life. Many individuals had been deeply affected by the conflict, and their transition to a peaceful and productive role in society required careful support and assistance. Jack's team collaborated with organizations and agencies specializing in reintegration and support services. They facilitated access to counseling, vocational training, and other resources to help former combatants build new lives and contribute to their communities. Throughout the transition process, Jack and his team remained vigilant and adaptable. They continuously assessed the situation, addressed emerging issues, and worked to ensure that the goals of the agreement were being met. Despite the challenges, there were also signs of progress and positive change. Communities were beginning to heal, new opportunities were emerging, and there was a growing sense of hope and possibility. The transition was a complex and ongoing process, but the commitment to achieving a lasting and just peace remained steadfast. Jack and his team continued to work towards that goal, navigating the challenges and opportunities of the evolving situation. The transition was well underway, and the early signs of success were beginning to emerge. The challenges of implementing the agreement had been met with determination and resilience, and there was a growing sense of optimism about the future. Jack and his team continued to play a crucial role in supporting the ongoing efforts and ensuring that the progress made was sustained. They worked closely with local communities, leaders, and stakeholders to address any remaining issues and to build on the positive momentum. One of the most significant developments was the successful implementation of key aspects of the political reforms. The new governance structures were taking shape, and there was increasing participation and engagement from the population. The establishment of new institutions and processes was a milestone in the journey towards a more inclusive and representative governance system. The reforms aimed to address the root causes of the conflict and to create a framework for sustainable and equitable development. Jack and his team were actively involved in supporting these efforts. They facilitated workshops, provided training, and worked to ensure that the new systems were functioning effectively and transparently. The economic recovery was also progressing, with various initiatives showing positive results. Infrastructure projects were completed, businesses were starting to thrive, and there was a renewed sense of economic activity and opportunity. Jack's team continued to support economic development efforts and to work with local businesses and entrepreneurs. They provided guidance, resources, and support to help stimulate growth and create a more prosperous future. The process of reconciliation was making significant strides as well. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission had completed its work, and its findings and recommendations were being implemented. The Commission's efforts had helped to address past grievances and to promote healing and understanding. Community dialogues and reconciliation initiatives continued to foster a sense of unity and shared purpose. The efforts to bridge divides and build relationships between different communities were contributing to a more harmonious and cohesive society. As the transition reached a pivotal point, Jack and his team reflected on the progress made and the journey ahead. The road to lasting peace and stability was ongoing, but the achievements of the past months provided a strong foundation for the future. The challenges of the past had been met with courage and determination, and the opportunities of the future were now within reach. Jack and his squad remained committed to their mission, ready to navigate the evolving landscape and to contribute to the continued success of the peace process. The new dawn represented a hopeful and promising future. It was a time of renewal and possibility, and the efforts of Jack and his team had played a vital role in shaping that future. As they looked ahead, they were guided by the belief that a better and more peaceful world was within their grasp. The positive momentum of the transition was met with unforeseen struggles that tested the resilience of Jack and his team. As the newly established systems continued to evolve, several issues arose that threatened to undermine the progress made. One of the primary concerns was the emergence of localized unrest. While the overarching peace agreement had been successful, certain regions experienced tension and conflict due to lingering grievances and disputes. These local issues often clashed with the broader peace efforts, creating a complex dynamic. Jack and his team were faced with the challenge of addressing these localized conflicts while maintaining focus on the broader objectives of the transition. They worked closely with local leaders, community representatives, and security forces to identify the root causes of the unrest and to develop targeted interventions. One particularly volatile region had seen an increase in protests and demonstrations, driven by dissatisfaction with the distribution of resources and political representation. Jack and his team organized community meetings and facilitated dialogue between local leaders and residents to address these concerns. Another challenge emerged with the economic recovery efforts. While many areas were experiencing growth, some communities felt left behind or marginalized. Disparities in development and opportunities were fueling discontent and creating additional obstacles to stability. To address these issues, Jack's team collaborated with development organizations and government agencies to ensure that resources were equitably distributed and that all communities had access to economic opportunities. They conducted assessments to identify areas in need of targeted support and worked to implement inclusive development initiatives. In addition to these challenges, there were ongoing issues related to the integration of former combatants. While many had successfully transitioned into civilian life, others struggled with the psychological and social impacts of their experiences. Addressing their needs and ensuring their successful reintegration was a crucial aspect of the peace process. Jack's team worked with mental health professionals and support organizations to provide counseling, vocational training, and community support for former combatants. They also facilitated programs aimed at promoting social cohesion and integration. Despite these struggles, there were moments of success and progress. The efforts to address localized conflicts led to improved communication and cooperation between different communities. Economic development initiatives began to yield positive results in previously underserved areas. Jack remained focused on the long-term goals of the transition. He and his team continued to adapt their strategies, address emerging issues, and work towards creating a more stable and equitable society. The unanticipated struggles served as a reminder of the complexities of the transition process. While challenges persisted, the commitment to achieving lasting peace and stability remained unwavering. In response to the ongoing challenges, Jack and his team intensified their efforts to build bridges between divided communities and to promote reconciliation. They recognized that addressing the root causes of conflict and fostering understanding were essential for ensuring the success of the peace process. One of the key initiatives was the establishment of a series of community-based dialogue programs. These programs aimed to bring together individuals from different backgrounds and experiences to discuss their concerns, share their perspectives, and work towards common goals. Jack and his team facilitated these dialogues, creating safe and inclusive spaces for open communication. They worked with local facilitators and community leaders to ensure that the dialogues were conducted respectfully and constructively. The dialogue programs addressed a range of issues, including historical grievances, cultural differences, and economic disparities. Participants were encouraged to listen actively, express their views, and collaborate on solutions to shared challenges. In addition to the dialogue programs, Jack and his team supported various community-building activities. These included joint cultural events, collaborative projects, and initiatives aimed at fostering mutual respect and understanding. One notable initiative was a series of cultural exchange programs that allowed individuals from different communities to learn about each other's traditions and practices. These programs help to build bridges and promote a sense of shared identity and connection. Jack's team also worked to support local peace-building organizations and grassroots initiatives. They provided funding, resources, and training to organizations that were actively engaged in promoting reconciliation and addressing community needs. The efforts to build bridges and promote understanding were met with varying degrees of success. Some communities embraced the initiatives and made significant strides towards reconciliation, while others continued to grapple with deep-seated divisions. Despite the challenges, the commitment to building a more cohesive society remained strong. Jack and his team continued to work towards creating an environment where diverse communities could coexist peacefully and work together towards common goals. The process of building bridges was ongoing and required patience, persistence, and dedication. Jack and his team remained hopeful that their efforts would contribute to a more inclusive and harmonious future. The turning point in the transition came as the collective efforts to address challenges and build bridges began to show tangible results. The combination of dialogue, reconciliation initiatives, and targeted support led to significant improvements in several key areas. One of the most notable successes was the resolution of localized conflicts. Through sustained dialogue and collaborative problem-solving, many communities were able to address their grievances and work towards common solutions. The reduction in tensions and the improvement in local relations contributed to a more stable and peaceful environment. Economic development efforts also began to gain momentum. The targeted support for underserved areas and the focus on equitable resource distribution led to visible improvements in infrastructure, access to services, and economic opportunities. The positive impact on local communities helped to build confidence in the transition process. The reintegration of former combatants continued to be a priority, and the support programs proved effective in helping individuals transition to civilian life. Many former combatants found meaningful employment, received counseling, and successfully integrated into their communities. The success of these initiatives was a testament to the resilience and determination of all those involved in the peace process. The collaborative efforts of Jack's team, local leaders, and community members were instrumental in achieving these positive outcomes. As the situation stabilized, Jack and his team took the opportunity to reflect on their journey and to plan for the future. They recognized that while significant progress had been made, there was still work to be done to ensure the sustainability of the peace process. The turning point represented a moment of hope and possibility. It was an opportunity to build on the successes achieved and to continue working towards a lasting and equitable peace. Jack and his team remained committed to their mission and to the goal of creating a better future for all. With renewed optimism and a clear sense of purpose, Jack and his team continued their efforts, confident that their work was making a meaningful difference. The path ahead was filled with both challenges and opportunities, but the progress made provided a strong foundation for continued success. As the peace process continued to unfold, Jack and his team began to focus on the long-term legacy of their efforts. The goal was not only to achieve a stable and equitable peace, but also to ensure that the positive changes made would endure for future generations. One of the key aspects of building a lasting legacy was the establishment of sustainable institutions and processes. Jack and his team worked to ensure that the new governance structures, economic systems, and social programs were designed to be resilient and effective over the long term. They supported the development of training programs and capacity-building initiatives to strengthen the skills and capabilities of local leaders and institutions. This included providing resources and support for ongoing education and professional development. In addition to institutional development, Jack and his team focused on promoting a culture of peace and reconciliation. They supported initiatives aimed at fostering mutual respect, understanding, and cooperation among diverse communities. One of the major achievements in this area was the establishment of a National Peace and Reconciliation Center. The center was designed to serve as a hub for promoting dialogue, supporting community initiatives, and preserving the memory of the conflict to prevent its recurrence. The center played a key role in organizing events, workshops, and educational programs focused on peace building and reconciliation. It also served as a repository for historical records, testimonies, and resources related to the conflict and the peace process. Jack and his team also worked to ensure that the voices of ordinary citizens were heard and that their contributions to the peace process were recognized. They supported community-based projects and initiatives that allowed individuals to actively participate in shaping their future. As the peace process matured, Jack and his team took pride in the achievements and the positive impact they had made. They continued to monitor the situation, provide support, and address any emerging challenges, but their focus was increasingly on ensuring that the legacy of peace was firmly established. The legacy of peace was defined not only by the agreements and institutions, but also by the transformation of attitudes and relationships. The journey from conflict to reconciliation had created a new sense of hope and possibility for the future. Jack and his team remained dedicated to their mission, guided by the belief that their efforts were contributing to a better world. The legacy of peace was a testament to the power of collaboration, determination, and the enduring commitment to a more just and harmonious society. With the peace process firmly in place, Jack and his team began to navigate a new set of challenges that arose from the evolving political and social landscape. The focus shifted from immediate conflict resolution to the complex task of ensuring that the gains achieved were sustained and built upon. One of the significant new challenges was managing the diverse expectations and interests of various stakeholders. As the initial excitement of peace began to wane, different groups started to voice their specific needs and aspirations. Balancing these diverse interests while maintaining unity and stability became a critical task. Jack's team held regular consultations with a wide range of stakeholders, including political leaders, community groups, and civil society organizations. These consultations were designed to ensure that all voices were heard and that decisions were made transparently and inclusively. Another emerging challenge was addressing the long-term economic disparities that persisted despite initial progress. While some regions had benefited from development initiatives, others continued to lag behind. Addressing these disparities required targeted interventions and sustained investment in infrastructure, education, and economic opportunities. Jack and his team collaborated with economic experts and development agencies to create tailored plans for the most affected regions. They focused on promoting inclusive growth and ensuring that all communities had access to the resources and opportunities needed for their development. Social cohesion also remained a priority. Despite the progress made, underlying social tensions and divisions sometimes resurfaced. To address this, Jack's team continued to support community-building efforts and initiatives aimed at fostering mutual respect and understanding. One notable initiative was the creation of a National Unity Day, a celebration designed to bring together people from different backgrounds and regions to celebrate their shared identity and achievements. The event included cultural performances, community activities, and dialogue sessions to promote a sense of national unity. Additionally, Jack and his team worked to strengthen the capacity of local institutions to manage conflicts and address grievances effectively. They provided training and support for local leaders, mediators, and community organizations to enhance their skills in conflict resolution and peace-building. The process of navigating these new challenges was marked by both successes and setbacks. While progress was made in several areas, there were ongoing issues that required continuous attention and adaptation. Jack and his team remained committed to their mission, recognizing that the journey towards a stable and equitable society was ongoing. They continued to work tirelessly to address emerging issues, support communities, and build on the achievements of the peace process. As the peace process evolved, Jack and his team began to focus on developing a renewed vision for the future. The initial goals of conflict resolution and stabilization had been achieved, but the next phase required a strategic vision for long-term development and prosperity. Jack and his team convened a series of high-level meetings with experts, policymakers, and community leaders to define a vision for the future. The discussion centered around creating a roadmap for sustainable development, social cohesion, and economic growth. One of the key themes that emerged from these discussions was the need for a holistic approach to development. The vision included not only economic growth, but also improvements in education, healthcare, and environmental sustainability. The goal was to create a balanced and inclusive society that offered opportunities for all. To achieve this vision, Jack and his team identified several strategic priorities. Education and skill development. Investing in education and vocational training to equip individuals with the skills needed for the evolving job market. This included supporting schools, universities, and training centers, as well as promoting lifelong learning. Healthcare access. Improving access to quality healthcare services, particularly in underserved areas. This involved expanding healthcare infrastructure, increasing the availability of medical professionals, and addressing public health challenges. Economic diversification. Promoting economic diversification to reduce dependence on single industries and create new opportunities. This included supporting entrepreneurship, innovation, and investment in emerging sectors. Environmental sustainability. Addressing environmental challenges and promoting sustainable practices. This involved implementing policies and programs to protect natural resources, reduce pollution, and combat climate change. Social inclusion, ensuring that all communities and marginalized groups had a voice in the development process and benefited from the opportunities created. This included addressing issues of inequality and discrimination. Jack and his team worked to translate these strategic priorities into actionable plans and programs. They collaborated with government agencies, international organizations, and local communities to develop and implement initiatives aligned with a renewed vision. One of the significant milestones in this process was the launch of a national development strategy that outlined specific goals, timelines, and measures for each priority area. The strategy was designed to be adaptable and responsive to changing circumstances. The renewed vision was met with a mix of enthusiasm and skepticism. While many welcomed the comprehensive approach and the focus on long-term development, others expressed concerns about the feasibility and sustainability of the plans. Jack and his team remained focused on engaging with stakeholders, addressing concerns, and building consensus around the vision. They continued to emphasize the importance of collaboration, transparency, and inclusivity in achieving the goals set out in the strategy. The process of developing and implementing the renewed vision was an ongoing journey. It required dedication, adaptability, and commitment to creating a brighter future for all. To realize the renewed vision and address the evolving challenges, Jack and his team recognized the importance of strengthening partnerships at multiple levels. Building effective collaborations with national, regional, and international partners was crucial for achieving the strategic priorities and ensuring the success of the development initiatives. One of the primary goals was to enhance cooperation between government agencies, civil society organizations, and the private sector. Jack and his team facilitated meetings and workshops to bring these stakeholders together and to identify opportunities for collaboration. They worked to establish formal partnerships and agreements that outlined shared goals, responsibilities, and resources. These partnerships were designed to leverage the expertise, networks, and resources of different organizations to achieve common objectives. In addition to national partnerships, Jack and his team sought to strengthen regional and international collaborations. They engaged with neighboring countries, regional organizations, and international development agencies to address transboundary issues and to benefit from global expertise and support. One notable partnership was with an international development organization that provided technical assistance and funding for education and healthcare initiatives. This collaboration allowed for the implementation of innovative programs and the introduction of best practices from other countries. Jack and his team also focused on building strong relationships with local communities. They recognized that the success of development initiatives depended on the active participation and support of community members. They worked to create channels for community input and feedback, ensuring that local perspectives and needs were incorporated into the planning and implementation of projects. To strengthen these partnerships, Jack and his team organized joint events, training sessions, and collaborative projects. They emphasized the importance of clear communication, mutual respect, and shared goals in building effective partnerships. The process of strengthening partnerships was marked by both successes and challenges. While many collaborations proved fruitful and resulted in positive outcomes, there were also instances where differences in priorities or approaches led to tensions. Jack and his team remained committed to navigating these challenges and to finding common ground. They continued to work towards creating a network of strong and effective partnerships that would support the realization of the renewed vision and contribute to long-term development and stability. The emphasis on partnerships underscored the importance of collective effort and collaboration in achieving the ambitious goals set out in the National Development Strategy. By working together, Jack and his team aimed to build a foundation for sustainable progress and to create lasting positive impact. As the development initiatives progressed, Jack and his team recognized the importance of embracing innovation to address complex challenges and to achieve the strategic priorities outlined in the renewed vision. Innovation was seen as a key driver of progress and a way to enhance the effectiveness and efficiency of development efforts. One of the areas where innovation played a crucial role was in the use of technology. Jack and his team explored various technological solutions to improve service delivery, streamline processes, and enhance data collection and analysis. For example, they implemented digital platforms to facilitate access to education and healthcare services. Online learning resources and telemedicine services were introduced to reach underserved communities and to provide remote support. In addition to technology, Jack and his team encouraged innovation in other areas, such as community development and economic growth. They supported initiatives that promoted entrepreneurial activities, creative problem-solving, and new approaches to addressing social and environmental challenges. One notable initiative was the creation of a national innovation hub that provided support for startups and social enterprises. The hub offered mentorship, funding, and networking opportunities to individuals and organizations with innovative ideas and solutions. Jack and his team also worked to foster a culture of innovation within government institutions and development organizations. They encourage experimentation, risk-taking, and collaboration to drive continuous improvement and to address emerging challenges. The emphasis on innovation was accompanied by efforts to ensure that new approaches were inclusive and accessible. Jack and his team worked to ensure that technological advancements and innovative solutions were implemented in a way that benefited all communities, including marginalized and underserved groups. The process of embracing innovation was dynamic and evolving. While many innovative initiatives proved successful and brought about positive change, there were also challenges related to implementation, scaling, and sustainability. Jack and his team remained focused on leveraging innovation to drive progress and to address the complex and evolving needs of society. They continued to explore new ideas, technologies, and approaches with the goal of creating lasting and meaningful impact. The embrace of innovation reflected a commitment to adapting to changing circumstances and to continually seeking ways to improve and enhance development efforts. By fostering a culture of creativity and forward thinking, Jack and his team aimed to build a brighter and more sustainable future for all. As the development initiatives gained momentum, Jack and his team recognized that building resilience was crucial for sustaining progress and effectively addressing future challenges. Resilience encompassed the ability of individuals, communities, and systems to adapt to and recover from adverse situations, ensuring long-term stability and growth. One of the primary areas of focus was strengthening community resilience. Jack's team collaborated with local organizations to develop programs that enhanced the ability of communities to withstand and recover from economic, environmental, and social shocks. These programs included disaster preparedness training, community-based support networks, and initiatives to build social capital and cohesion. In addition to community-level resilience, Jack and his team focused on enhancing the resilience of critical infrastructure and services. They worked on improving the robustness and adaptability of infrastructure such as transportation, energy, and water systems to ensure that they could withstand disruptions and continue to function effectively. A key aspect of building resilience was fostering adaptive capacity within institutions and organizations. Jack's team supported training and capacity-building programs for government agencies, NGOs, and other stakeholders to enhance their ability to respond to emerging challenges and changing conditions. One significant initiative was the establishment of a national resilience framework that outlined strategies and actions for building resilience across different sectors and levels of society. The framework included guidelines for risk assessment, emergency response planning, and recovery and reconstruction efforts. Jack and his team also prioritized the integration of resilience-building measures into development planning and policy. They worked to ensure that resilience considerations were incorporated into all aspects of development projects, from design and implementation to monitoring and evaluation. Despite these efforts, building resilience was a complex and ongoing process. Jack and his team encountered challenges related to resource constraints, varying levels of commitment, and the need for continuous adaptation to evolving circumstances. They remained committed to their goal of enhancing resilience and continued to work on strengthening systems, institutions, and communities. By focusing on resilience, Jack and his team aimed to create a more robust and adaptable society capable of thriving in the face of future challenges. Recognizing that many challenges extended beyond national borders, Jack and his team emphasized the importance of fostering regional cooperation. Regional collaboration was essential for addressing transboundary issues, such as environmental degradation, economic development, and security concerns. Jack's team engaged with neighboring countries and regional organizations to promote dialogue and cooperation on shared issues. They facilitated regional conferences, workshops, and collaborative projects to build mutual understanding and to develop joint strategies for addressing common challenges. One notable achievement was the establishment of a regional development partnership that brought together countries with shared interests and goals. The partnership focused on areas such as infrastructure development, trade facilitation, and environmental protection. Through this partnership, Jack's team worked on initiatives that benefited multiple countries, such as the construction of cross-border transportation networks and the implementation of regional environmental conservation programs. These initiatives aim to promote economic integration, improve connectivity, and protect natural resources. In addition to formal partnerships, Jack's team supported informal networks and collaborations between local communities, businesses, and civil society organizations across borders. These networks facilitated the exchange of ideas, experiences, and best practices and helped to build trust and cooperation at the grassroots level. Fostering regional cooperation also involved addressing and managing differences and conflicts that arose between countries or regions. Jack's team worked to mediate disputes and to find common ground on contentious issues, with the goal of maintaining a positive and collaborative regional environment. Despite the progress made, regional cooperation faced challenges related to political differences, competing interests, and resource constraints. Jack and his team remained dedicated to overcoming these challenges and to strengthening regional ties. The emphasis on regional cooperation reflected a recognition of the interconnected nature of global challenges and the need for collective action. By fostering collaboration and partnerships at the regional level, Jack and his team aimed to enhance overall stability and prosperity in the region. As the development initiatives continued to evolve, Jack and his team took time to reflect on and celebrate the achievements and milestones that had been reached. Recognizing and celebrating successes was important for maintaining morale, building momentum, and reinforcing the commitment to ongoing efforts. One of the major celebrations was the annual Progress Gala, an event that highlighted the accomplishments of various projects and initiatives. The gala included award ceremonies, presentations, and showcases of success stories from different sectors and communities. The event provided an opportunity for stakeholders to share their experiences, acknowledge the contributions of individuals and organizations, and recognize the positive impact of the development efforts. It also served as a platform for inspiring others and generating enthusiasm for continued work. In addition to the gala, Jack and his team organized local and regional celebrations to honor achievements at different levels. These included community events, exhibitions, and public forums that showcased the progress made in areas such as education, healthcare, and economic development. Celebrating achievements also involved acknowledging the hard work and dedication of the team members, partners, and community leaders who had played a crucial role in the success of the initiatives. Jack and his team expressed their gratitude and appreciation through recognition awards, public acknowledgments, and personal messages. The celebrations were not only about highlighting successes, but also about reinforcing the values and goals that guided the development efforts. They provided an opportunity to reiterate the vision for the future and to encourage continued commitment to the shared objectives. While celebrating achievements, Jack and his team also remained mindful of the challenges that lay ahead. They used the celebrations as a moment to reflect on lessons learned and to strategize for future endeavors. The event served as both a celebration of progress and a reminder of the ongoing journey. By celebrating achievements, Jack and his team aimed to build a sense of pride, unity, and motivation among stakeholders. They recognized that acknowledging successes was an important part of sustaining momentum and driving continued progress towards a brighter and more prosperous future. As the development initiatives matured and new challenges emerged, Jack and his team began to look toward the future with a focus on sustaining progress and adapting to changing circumstances. The journey thus far had been marked by significant achievements, but the path forward required careful planning and strategic foresight. One of the key priorities was to develop a long-term sustainability plan that addressed the ongoing needs of communities and ensured the continued success of the development efforts. Jack and his team worked on creating a roadmap that outlined the key areas of focus, resource requirements, and strategies for maintaining and expanding progress. The long-term plan included measures for ensuring financial sustainability, such as diversifying funding sources, fostering public-private partnerships, and strengthening local revenue generation. It also emphasized the importance of building local capacity and ownership to ensure that communities could continue to drive their own development. In addition to financial sustainability, the long-term plan addressed the need for ongoing adaptation and innovation. Jack and his team recognized that the development landscape was dynamic and that new challenges and opportunities would arise. They emphasized the importance of staying agile, responsive, and forward-thinking in addressing emerging issues. Looking to the future also involved continued engagement with stakeholders and communities. Jack and his team maintained regular communication channels and feedback mechanisms to ensure that the perspectives and needs of different groups were considered in future planning and decision-making. Another important aspect of looking to the future was preparing for potential risks and uncertainties. Jack and his team developed contingency plans and risk management strategies to address potential disruptions and to ensure that the development efforts could continue in the face of unforeseen challenges. The process of looking to the future was marked by a sense of optimism and determination. Jack and his team were committed to building on the progress made and to working towards a future that was inclusive, equitable, and sustainable. As they embarked on this next phase of their journey, Jack and his team remained focused on their vision and goals. They continued to draw inspiration from their achievements, learn from their experiences, and collaborate with partners and communities to create a positive and lasting impact. By looking to the future with a clear sense of purpose and a commitment to ongoing improvement, Jack and his team aimed to ensure that the development efforts would continue to benefit generations to come and to contribute to a brighter and more hopeful future for all. As Jack and his team looked to the future, they recognized that strengthening education systems was pivotal for long-term development and empowerment. Education was a cornerstone of sustainable growth, equipping individuals with the skills and knowledge needed to thrive in a rapidly changing world. Jack's team began by conducting a comprehensive assessment of the existing education systems across different regions. They identified key areas for improvement, including access to quality education, teacher training, curriculum development, and infrastructure. One of their major initiatives was to improve access to education for marginalized and underserved communities. They collaborated with local governments and organizations to build new schools, provide scholarships, and support programs that address barriers to education such as poverty, gender inequality, and geographic isolation. In parallel, Jack's team focused on enhancing the quality of education. They worked on developing and implementing updated curricula that aligned with contemporary needs and skills. This included integrating technology into classrooms, promoting critical thinking and problem-solving, and emphasizing STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. Teacher training and professional development were also central to their efforts. Jack's team established programs to provide teachers with ongoing training, resources, and support. This aimed to enhance teaching practices, improve student outcomes, and foster a positive learning environment. Another significant area of focus was vocational and technical education. Jack's team recognized the importance of providing students with practical skills that aligned with job market demands. They supported the creation of vocational training centers, apprenticeships, and partnerships with businesses to ensure that education was relevant and responsive to economic needs. To support these efforts, Jack's team worked on developing robust monitoring and evaluation systems. They tracked progress, assessed the impact of education initiatives, and used data to inform decision-making and continuous improvement. Despite the progress made, Jack and his team faced challenges related to resource constraints, resistance to change, and disparities in educational opportunities. They remain committed to addressing these challenges and to ensuring that every individual had access to quality education. By strengthening education systems, Jack and his team aim to empower individuals, promote social mobility, and contribute to a more equitable and prosperous society. They saw education as a transformative force that could drive progress and create opportunities for future generations. In an era of rapid technological advancement, Jack and his team recognized the importance of leveraging technology to drive development and address societal challenges. Technological innovation had the potential to transform industries, improve quality of life, and accelerate progress across various sectors. Jack's team began by identifying key areas where technology could make a significant impact. They focused on sectors such as healthcare, agriculture, energy, and governance, where technological solutions could address pressing issues and enhance efficiency. One major initiative was to promote digital inclusion and expand access to technology. Jack's team worked on bridging the digital divide by improving internet connectivity, providing access to digital devices, and supporting digital literacy programs. This aimed to ensure that individuals and communities could benefit from technological advancements. In healthcare, Jack's team supported the implementation of telemedicine, electronic health records, and data-driven health solutions. These technologies aim to improve access to healthcare services, enhance diagnostic capabilities, and enable more efficient management of health information. In agriculture, Jack's team focused on advancing precision farming technologies, such as drones, sensors, and data analytics. These innovations help farmers optimize crop yields, manage resources more effectively, and reduce environmental impacts. Energy was another key area of focus. Jack's team supported the development and deployment of renewable energy technologies, such as solar, wind, and hydropower. They also worked on improving energy efficiency and promoting sustainable practices. In the realm of governance, Jack's team encouraged the use of technology to enhance transparency, accountability, and citizen engagement. They supported the development of e-governance platforms, data-driven decision-making, and digital tools for public participation. To foster innovation, Jack's team established partnerships with tech companies, research institutions, and startups. They supported incubators, accelerators, and innovation hubs that provided resources, mentorship, and funding for technology-driven projects. Despite the potential of technological innovation, Jack and his team faced challenges related to technological infrastructure, regulatory frameworks, and cybersecurity. They worked to address these challenges by investing in secure systems, promoting ethical practices, and ensuring the technology was used responsibly. By advancing technological innovation, Jack and his team aimed to harness the power of technology to drive development, improve lives, and create new opportunities. They saw technology as a catalyst for positive change and a key driver of future progress. As the development initiatives continued to evolve, Jack and his team recognized the importance of promoting sustainable development. Sustainable development encompassed economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental protection, ensuring that progress was achieved in a way that met the needs of present and future generations. Jack's team began by integrating sustainability principles into all aspects of their work. They focused on creating development strategies and projects that balanced economic, social, and environmental considerations. This approach aimed to ensure that development efforts were both effective and responsible. One key area of focus was environmental sustainability. Jack's team supported initiatives that addressed climate change, protected natural resources, and promoted sustainable practices. They worked on projects related to conservation, waste management, and renewable energy, aiming to reduce environmental impacts and enhance ecological resilience. Social inclusion was another critical aspect of sustainable development. Jack's team prioritized efforts to reduce inequality, promote social justice, and ensure that development benefits were equitably distributed. They supported programs that addressed issues such as poverty, discrimination, and access to essential services. Economic sustainability was also a priority. Jack's team worked on fostering inclusive economic growth that created opportunities for all individuals and communities. They supported initiatives that promoted entrepreneurship, job creation, and sustainable business practices. To promote sustainable development, Jack's team emphasized the importance of stakeholder engagement and collaboration. They worked with governments, businesses, civil society organizations, and communities to develop and implement sustainable development strategies. This collaborative approach helped to build shared ownership and commitment to sustainability goals. Monitoring and evaluation were integral to their efforts. Jack's team tracked progress, assessed the impact of development initiatives, and used data to inform decision-making and course corrections. They aimed to ensure that sustainability objectives were achieved and that development efforts remained aligned with long-term goals. Despite their efforts, Jack and his team faced challenges related to balancing competing interests, addressing systemic issues, and managing trade-offs between different dimensions of sustainability. They remained committed to overcoming these challenges and to promoting development that was both equitable and sustainable. By promoting sustainable development, Jack and his team aimed to create a future where economic, social, and environmental goals were harmonized. They sought to ensure that development efforts contributed to a better quality of life, protected the planet, and created opportunities for all. Recognizing the critical role of public health in overall development, Jack and his team prioritized efforts to enhance public health systems and outcomes. A strong public health infrastructure was essential for improving health outcomes, preventing diseases, and ensuring the well-being of communities. Jack's team began by conducting an assessment of public health needs and challenges. They identified key areas for improvement, including access to healthcare services, disease prevention, health education, and healthcare infrastructure. One major initiative was to improve access to quality healthcare services. Jack's team worked on expanding healthcare facilities, increasing the availability of medical professionals, and reducing barriers to accessing care. They supported the development of primary healthcare centers, mobile clinics, and telemedicine services to reach underserved populations. Disease prevention and health promotion were also central to their efforts. Jack's team supported vaccination programs, health screenings, and public awareness campaigns to address prevalent health issues and promote healthy behaviors. They worked on initiatives to combat infectious diseases, non-communicable diseases, and emerging health threats. Health education and literacy were emphasized as crucial components of public health. Jack's team developed programs to educate individuals and communities about health topics, such as nutrition, hygiene, and mental health. They aimed to empower people with the knowledge and skills needed to make informed health decisions. Another focus was on strengthening healthcare infrastructure and systems. Jack's team supported investments in healthcare facilities, medical equipment, and information technology systems. They also worked on improving healthcare financing, ensuring that resources were allocated efficiently and effectively. Monitoring and evaluation were essential for assessing the impact of public health initiatives and identifying areas for improvement. Jack's team implemented robust data collection and analysis systems to track health outcomes, measure progress, and inform decision-making. Despite the progress made, Jack and his team faced challenges related to healthcare disparities, resource constraints, and evolving health needs. They remained dedicated to addressing these challenges and to ensuring that public health efforts were inclusive and effective. By enhancing public health, Jack and his team aimed to improve health outcomes, reduce disease burden, and contribute to the overall well-being of communities. They recognized that a strong public health system was fundamental to achieving broader development goals and ensuring a healthier future for all. As Jack and his team continue their work, they understood that fostering economic resilience was crucial for maintaining stability and growth in the face of challenges and uncertainties. Economic resilience involved the ability of economies to absorb shocks, adapt to changing conditions, and sustain long-term development. Jack's team began by assessing the vulnerabilities and strengths of different economies. They identified key areas where resilience could be improved, including diversification of economic activities, strengthening of financial systems, and enhancement of risk management practices. One major initiative was to promote economic diversification. Jack's team worked with local businesses and governments to develop and support new industries and sectors. By reducing reliance on a single industry or market, they aimed to create more robust and adaptable economies. Strengthening financial systems was another priority. Jack's team supported efforts to improve financial regulation, enhance transparency, and increase access to financial services. They worked on building the capacity of financial institutions and promoting financial literacy among individuals and businesses. Risk management and preparedness were also central to their efforts. Jack's team developed strategies to help economies anticipate and respond to potential risks, such as natural disasters, economic downturns, and global market fluctuations. They supported the creation of contingency plans, emergency response systems, and insurance mechanisms. To support economic resilience, Jack's team emphasized the importance of innovation and entrepreneurship. They encouraged the development of new technologies, business models, and practices that could drive growth and enhance competitiveness. They supported startups, small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, and research and development initiatives. Monitoring and evaluation were key components of their approach. Jack's team tracked economic performance, assessed the impact of resilience-building measures, and used data to inform policy decisions and adjustments. They aimed to ensure that resilience strategies were effective and responsive to changing conditions. Despite their efforts, Jack and his team faced challenges related to economic disparities, global economic uncertainties, and resource limitations. They remained committed to addressing these challenges and to building resilient economies that could withstand and thrive in a dynamic world. By fostering economic resilience, Jack and his team aimed to create stable and adaptable economies that could sustain growth and development over the long term. They recognized that resilience was essential for ensuring economic stability and prosperity in an ever-changing global landscape. As part of their broader development agenda, Jack and his team recognized the importance of advancing gender equality. Gender equality was not only a fundamental human right, but also a crucial factor in achieving sustainable development and social progress. Jack's team began by assessing the status of gender equality in various contexts. They identified key areas where gender disparities persisted, including access to education, economic opportunities, healthcare, and political participation. One major initiative was to promote equal access to education for girls and women. Jack's team supported programs that aimed to reduce gender disparities in education, such as scholarship programs, awareness campaigns, and initiatives to combat child marriage and gender-based violence. Economic empowerment of women was another priority. Jack's team worked on initiatives to increase women's participation in the workforce, support women entrepreneurs, and ensure equal pay for equal work. They provided training, resources, and networking opportunities to help women succeed in their careers and businesses. Healthcare access and gender-specific health needs were also addressed. Jack's team supported programs that focused on women's health issues, such as maternal health, reproductive health, and gender-based violence. They worked on improving access to healthcare services and information for women and girls. Political and social participation was emphasized as a crucial aspect of gender equality. Jack's team supported efforts to increase women's representation in political and decision-making positions. They worked on initiatives to promote women's leadership, advocacy, and participation in governance and community affairs. Monitoring and evaluation were integral to their approach. Jack's team tracked progress on gender equality initiatives, assessed the impact of interventions, and used data to inform policy decisions and program adjustments. They aimed to ensure that gender equality efforts were effective and responsive to the needs of diverse populations. Despite the progress made, Jack and his team faced challenges related to deeply ingrained cultural norms, resistance to change, and disparities in opportunities. They remained dedicated to addressing these challenges and to advancing gender equality as a core component of their development efforts. By advancing gender equality, Jack and his team aimed to create a more just and equitable society where everyone had the opportunity to thrive. They recognized that gender equality was essential for achieving broader development goals and for building inclusive and resilient communities. Recognizing the interconnected nature of global challenges, Jack and his team understood that strengthening global partnerships was crucial for achieving their development goals. Global partnerships involve collaboration between governments, organizations, businesses, and communities to address shared issues and drive collective progress. Jack's team began by identifying key stakeholders and partners in their development efforts. They established relationships with international organizations, donor agencies, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and private sector partners. By fostering these partnerships, they aim to leverage resources, expertise, and networks to enhance their impact. One major initiative was to promote international cooperation on development issues. Jack's team participated in global forums, conferences, and initiatives to share knowledge, coordinate efforts, and align strategies. They worked on building consensus and forging partnerships on key issues such as climate change, poverty reduction, and health. They also focused on fostering regional and bilateral partnerships. Jack's team collaborated with neighboring countries and regional organizations to address shared challenges and opportunities. They supported cross-border projects, regional integration efforts, and joint initiatives that benefited multiple countries. Private sector engagement was another important aspect of their strategy. Jack's team worked with businesses to promote corporate social responsibility, CSR, support sustainable practices, and invest in development projects. They sought to create mutually beneficial partnerships that align business interests with development objectives. Civil society organizations and community groups played a crucial role in their approach. Jack's team supported grassroots initiatives, community-led projects, and advocacy efforts. They recognized the importance of involving communities in development processes and ensuring that their voices were heard. Monitoring and evaluation were essential for assessing the effectiveness of global partnerships. Jack's team tracked the outcomes of collaborative efforts, measured the impact of partnerships, and used data to inform decision-making and improve practices. They aimed to ensure that partnerships were productive and that resources were used efficiently. Despite their efforts, Jack and his team faced challenges related to differing priorities, coordination issues, and resource constraints. They remain committed to overcoming these challenges and to strengthening global partnerships as a means of driving collective progress and addressing complex global issues. By strengthening global partnerships, Jack and his team aimed to create a collaborative and coordinated approach to development that could tackle shared challenges and achieve greater impact. They recognized that global cooperation was essential for building a better world and for advancing common goals. As Jack and his team moved forward with their development agenda, they recognized the importance of cultivating a culture of innovation. Innovation was a driving force behind progress, helping to address challenges, create new opportunities, and improve outcomes across various sectors. Jack's team began by fostering an environment that encouraged creativity and experimentation. They established innovation hubs, incubators, and platforms that provided resources, support, and mentorship for innovative ideas and projects. These spaces were designed to bring together diverse stakeholders, including entrepreneurs, researchers, and community members. One major initiative was to promote research and development, R&D. Jack's team supported R&D projects in areas such as technology, healthcare, and sustainable development. They provided funding, technical assistance, and collaboration opportunities to advance cutting-edge solutions and technologies. Encouraging entrepreneurship was another key focus. Jack's team worked on creating an enabling environment for startups and small businesses. They provided access to funding, training, and networking opportunities to help entrepreneurs bring their ideas to fruition and scale their ventures. Education and skill development were also integral to fostering innovation. Jack's team supported programs that emphasized STEM education, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. They worked on integrating innovation and entrepreneurship into curricula and providing hands-on learning experiences. Partnerships with academia, industry, and government were essential for driving innovation. Jack's team collaborated with universities, research institutions, and businesses to bridge the gap between research and practice. They supported joint projects, knowledge sharing, and technology transfer. Monitoring and evaluation were crucial for assessing the impact of innovation initiatives. Jack's team tracked the progress of innovative projects, measured outcomes, and used data to inform future efforts. They aimed to ensure that innovation was effective and aligned with development goals. Despite the progress made, Jack and his team faced challenges related to resource constraints, risk aversion, and barriers to collaboration. They remained committed to overcoming these challenges and to fostering a culture of innovation that could drive positive change and progress. By cultivating a culture of innovation, Jack and his team aimed to create an environment where new ideas could flourish and contribute to solving pressing issues. They recognized that innovation was essential for achieving their development objectives and for creating a brighter future. As Jack and his team advanced their development agenda, they recognized the importance of sustainable urban development. Rapid urbanization presented both opportunities and challenges, and they sought to promote urban growth that was environmentally sustainable, socially inclusive, and economically vibrant. Jack's team began by assessing the current state of urban development in various cities and regions. They identified key challenges such as inadequate infrastructure, environmental degradation, and social inequality. They also highlighted opportunities for creating sustainable and livable urban environments. One major initiative was to improve urban planning and design. Jack's team supported efforts to develop comprehensive and integrated urban plans that addressed issues such as land use, transportation, and green spaces. They encouraged the adoption of smart growth principles that promoted compact, walkable, and transit-oriented communities. Sustainable infrastructure development was another priority. Jack's team worked on projects to enhance urban infrastructure, including energy-efficient buildings, renewable energy systems, and sustainable water management. They promoted the use of green technologies and practices to reduce the environmental impact of urban development. Addressing social inclusion and equity was central to their approach. Jack's team supported initiatives to ensure that urban development benefited all residents, particularly marginalized and vulnerable groups. They worked on improving access to affordable housing, quality education, and healthcare services in urban areas. Transportation and mobility were key aspects of sustainable urban development. Jack's team promoted the development of efficient and eco-friendly transportation systems, such as public transit, cycling infrastructure, and pedestrian-friendly streets. They aimed to reduce traffic congestion, air pollution, and greenhouse gas emissions. Community engagement and participation were integral to their strategy. Jack's team involved residents, community organizations, and local stakeholders in the urban planning process. They sought to ensure that development projects reflected the needs and preferences of the communities they served. Monitoring and evaluation were crucial for assessing the impact of urban development initiatives. Jack's team tracked progress, measured outcomes, and used data to inform decision-making and improve practices. They aimed to ensure that urban development was sustainable and aligned with broader development goals. Despite their efforts, Jack and his team faced challenges related to rapid urban growth, limited resources, and competing interests. They remained committed to overcoming these challenges and to promoting sustainable urban development as a means of creating vibrant and resilient cities. By promoting sustainable urban development, Jack and his team aimed to create urban environments that were inclusive, environmentally responsible, and economically prosperous. They recognized that sustainable cities were essential for achieving broader development objectives and for improving the quality of life for urban residents. Recognizing the critical importance of healthcare and overall development, Jack and his team focused on enhancing healthcare access and quality. They aimed to improve health outcomes, reduce health disparities, and ensure that all individuals had access to essential healthcare services. Jack's team began by assessing the state of healthcare systems in different regions. They identified key challenges such as inadequate infrastructure, shortage of healthcare professionals, and disparities in access to care. They also highlighted opportunities for improving healthcare delivery and outcomes. One major initiative was to improve healthcare infrastructure. Jack's team supported the construction and upgrading of healthcare facilities, including hospitals, clinics, and primary care centers. They emphasized the importance of ensuring that healthcare infrastructure was well-maintained and equipped to provide high-quality care. Workforce development was another priority. Jack's team worked on programs to train and retain healthcare professionals, including doctors, nurses, and allied health workers. They supported efforts to address shortages, improve working conditions, and enhance the skills and knowledge of healthcare providers. Access to essential healthcare services was a central focus. Jack's team worked on initiatives to expand coverage and reduce barriers to care. They supported efforts to increase availability of services, such as maternal and child health, preventive care, and treatment for chronic diseases. Quality of care was also emphasized in their approach. Jack's team supported programs to improve clinical practices, patient safety, and healthcare outcomes. They worked on developing and implementing standards, guidelines, and best practices to ensure that care was effective and patient-centered. Health education and promotion were integral to their strategy. Jack's team supported public health campaigns, community outreach, and health education programs. They aimed to increase awareness of health issues, promote healthy behaviors, and empower individuals to take control of their health. Monitoring and evaluation were essential for assessing the impact of healthcare initiatives. Jack's team tracked health outcomes, measured the effectiveness of programs, and used data to inform decision-making and improve practices. They aimed to ensure that healthcare improvements were sustainable and equitable. Despite their progress, Jack and his team faced challenges related to resource constraints, healthcare inequalities, and evolving health needs. They remained dedicated to addressing these challenges and to enhancing healthcare access and quality as a means of improving overall well-being. By enhancing healthcare access and quality, Jack and his team aimed to create a healthier and more equitable world. They recognized that improving healthcare was fundamental to achieving development goals and to ensuring that everyone had the opportunity to live a healthy and fulfilling life. In the increasingly digital world, Jack and his team understood the importance of advancing digital inclusion. They sought to ensure that everyone had access to and could benefit from digital technologies, which were essential for education, economic opportunities, and social participation. Jack's team began by assessing the state of digital inclusion in various contexts. They identified key challenges such as lack of access to technology, digital literacy gaps, and disparities in internet connectivity. They also highlighted opportunities for expanding digital access and skills. One major initiative was to improve internet connectivity. Jack's team supported projects to expand broadband infrastructure, particularly in underserved and rural areas. They worked on initiatives to increase internet access, reduce connectivity costs, and ensure reliable and high-speed connections. Digital literacy and skills development were another priority. Jack's team supported programs to enhance digital literacy among individuals and communities. They provided training, resources, and support to help people acquire the skills needed to use digital technologies effectively and safely. Access to digital devices was also a focus. Jack's team worked on initiatives to provide affordable and accessible digital devices, such as computers and smartphones. They supported programs to distribute devices to students, low-income families, and other underserved groups. Promoting digital inclusion in education and employment was integral to their approach. Jack's team supported efforts to integrate digital technologies into educational curricula, enhance online learning opportunities, and promote digital skills training for the workforce. Cybersecurity and online safety were important aspects of their strategy. Jack's team worked on initiatives to promote safe and secure online practices. They supported programs to educate individuals about cybersecurity risks, protect personal information, and combat online threats. Monitoring and evaluation were crucial for assessing the impact of digital inclusion initiatives. Jack's team tracked progress, measured outcomes, and used data to inform decision-making and improve practices. They aimed to ensure that digital inclusion efforts were effective and that all individuals could benefit from digital technologies. Despite their efforts, Jack and his team faced challenges related to technological disparities, resource constraints, and rapidly evolving digital landscapes. They remained committed to overcoming these challenges and to advancing digital inclusion as a means of promoting equity and opportunity in the digital age. By advancing digital inclusion, Jack and his team aimed to create a more connected and equitable world where everyone had the opportunity to participate in and benefit from the digital economy. They recognized that digital inclusion was essential for achieving broader development goals and for empowering individuals and communities. As part of their comprehensive development agenda, Jack and his team recognized the need to build resilient food systems. A resilient food system was crucial for ensuring food security, improving nutrition, and supporting sustainable agricultural practices. Jack's team began by assessing the state of food systems in different regions. They identified key challenges such as food insecurity, agricultural inefficiencies, and environmental impacts of food production. They also highlighted opportunities for enhancing the resilience and sustainability of food systems. One major initiative was to support sustainable agriculture. Jack's team worked on projects to promote environmentally friendly farming practices, such as organic farming, agroforestry, and conservation tillage. They supported efforts to reduce the use of harmful chemicals, improve soil health, and enhance biodiversity. Improving food security was another priority. Jack's team supported programs to increase food production, reduce post-harvest losses, and enhance food storage and distribution systems. They worked on initiatives to improve access to nutritious food, particularly in food-insecure areas. Nutrition and dietary diversity were central to their approach. Jack's team supported efforts to promote healthy diets and improve nutrition education. They worked on programs to increase the availability and affordability of diverse and nutritious foods, and to address malnutrition and related health issues. Climate resilience and adaptation were also important aspects of their strategy. Jack's team supported projects to help farmers and food producers adapt to climate change. They worked on initiatives to improve water management, develop drought-resistant crops, and reduce the carbon footprint of food production. Supporting local food systems and markets was integral to their approach. Jack's team worked on initiatives to strengthen local food networks, promote farmer cooperatives, and support small-scale food producers. They aimed to enhance local food security and create economic opportunities in rural communities. Monitoring and evaluation were essential for assessing the impact of food system initiatives. Jack's team tracked progress, measured outcomes, and used data to inform decision-making and improve practices. They aimed to ensure that food system improvements were effective and sustainable. Despite their progress, Jack and his team faced challenges related to resource constraints, climate variability, and market dynamics. They remained dedicated to addressing these challenges and to building resilient food systems that could support sustainable development and ensure food security for all. By building resilient food systems, Jack and his team aimed to create a more secure and sustainable food environment. They recognized that resilient food systems were essential for achieving development goals, improving health outcomes, and supporting the well-being of communities. Recognizing the transformative potential of innovation and technology, Jack and his team embarked on a mission to foster a culture of innovation across various sectors. They aimed to harness technology's power to drive economic growth, solve complex challenges, and improve quality of life. Jack's team began by assessing the current state of innovation and technology adoption in different regions. They identified challenges such as limited access to technology, inadequate support for startups, and gaps in research and development. They also saw opportunities to stimulate innovation and enhance technological capabilities. One major initiative was to promote research and development, R&D. Jack's team supported efforts to increase investment in R&D across various fields, including health, agriculture, and renewable energy. They worked on creating environments that encouraged innovation, such as innovation hubs and research institutions. Supporting startups and entrepreneurship was another key focus. Jack's team worked to create ecosystems that nurtured startups, providing resources such as funding, mentorship, and networking opportunities. They aimed to foster an entrepreneurial spirit and support the growth of innovative businesses. Digital innovation was central to their strategy. Jack's team promoted the development and adoption of cutting-edge digital technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, and the Internet of Things (IoT). They supported projects that leverage these technologies to address societal challenges and create new opportunities. Education and skills development were integral to their approach. Jack's team supported programs that enhanced digital literacy, coding skills, and STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. They aim to equip individuals with the skills needed to thrive in a technology-driven world. Encouraging collaboration and partnerships was also important. Jack's team worked to facilitate collaboration between academia, industry, and government. They supported initiatives that brought together diverse stakeholders to address complex problems and drive innovation. Monitoring and evaluation were crucial for assessing the impact of innovation and technology initiatives. Jack's team tracked progress, measured outcomes, and used data to inform decision-making and improve practices. They aimed to ensure that innovation efforts were effective and contributed to broader development goals. Despite their progress, Jack and his team faced challenges related to technological disparities, regulatory barriers, and rapid changes in technology. They remained committed to overcoming these challenges and to fostering a culture of innovation that could drive positive change and development. By fostering innovation and technology, Jack and his team aimed to create a dynamic and forward-looking environment where new ideas could flourish and technological advancements could benefit society. They recognized that innovation was essential for addressing global challenges and achieving sustainable development. Jack and his team understood that effective governance and strong institutions were crucial for achieving sustainable development and addressing complex global challenges. They embarked on a mission to strengthen governance frameworks and institutional capacities across various sectors. Jack's team began by assessing the state of governance and institutional effectiveness in different regions. They identified challenges such as corruption, lack of transparency, and weak rule of law. They also highlighted opportunities for improving governance and institutional performance. One major initiative was to promote good governance practices. Jack's team supported efforts to enhance transparency, accountability, and public participation in decision-making processes. They worked on projects to improve government efficiency and to build trust between institutions and citizens. Strengthening the rule of law was another priority. Jack's team supported initiatives to improve legal frameworks, enhance judicial independence, and ensure the fair and impartial administration of justice. They aimed to create legal systems that protected rights and upheld the principles of justice and equality. Institutional capacity building was central to their approach. Jack's team worked to enhance the capacities of key institutions, including government agencies, regulatory bodies, and civil society organizations. They supported training programs, organizational development, and resource allocation to improve institutional performance. Promoting anti-corruption measures was integral to their strategy. Jack's team supported efforts to combat corruption through measures such as strengthening anti-corruption laws, improving oversight mechanisms, and fostering a culture of integrity. They aimed to reduce the impact of corruption on development outcomes. Encouraging civic engagement and participation was also important. Jack's team worked to promote citizen involvement in governance processes and decision-making. They supported initiatives that empowered communities to advocate for their rights and contribute to policy development. Monitoring and evaluation were essential for assessing the impact of governance and institutional initiatives. Jack's team tracked progress, measured outcomes, and used data to inform decision-making and improve practices. They aimed to ensure that governance reforms were effective and contributed to sustainable development. Despite their efforts, Jack and his team faced challenges related to entrenched corruption, political instability, and institutional resistance to change. They remained dedicated to addressing these challenges and to strengthening governance and institutions as a means of promoting effective and equitable development. By strengthening governance and institutions, Jack and his team aimed to create a more transparent, accountable, and effective governance environment. They recognized that strong institutions were essential for achieving development goals, fostering stability, and ensuring that development efforts were sustainable and equitable. Recognizing the fundamental importance of water and sanitation for health and development, Jack and his team focused on enhancing water and sanitation systems. They aimed to improve access to clean water, ensure proper sanitation, and promote sustainable water management practices. Jack's team began by assessing the state of water and sanitation systems in various regions. They identified challenges such as inadequate infrastructure, limited access to clean water, and poor sanitation conditions. They also highlighted opportunities for improving water and sanitation services. One major initiative was to improve water infrastructure. Jack's team supported projects to expand and upgrade water supply systems, including the construction of wells, pipelines, and treatment facilities. They aimed to ensure that communities had reliable access to clean and safe drinking water. Sanitation improvements were another priority. Jack's team worked on initiatives to enhance sanitation facilities, such as the construction of toilets and sewage systems. They supported efforts to improve hygiene practices and reduce the spread of waterborne diseases. Sustainable water management was central to their approach. Jack's team supported projects that promoted efficient water use, conservation, and recycling. They worked on initiatives to manage water resources sustainably and address issues such as water scarcity and pollution. Education and awareness were integral to their strategy. Jack's team supported programs to educate communities about the importance of water and sanitation, proper hygiene practices, and safe water usage. They aimed to empower individuals to take responsibility for their water and sanitation needs. Monitoring and evaluation were crucial for assessing the impact of water and sanitation initiatives. Jack's team tracked progress, measured outcomes, and used data to inform decision-making and improve practices. They aimed to ensure that water and sanitation improvements were effective and sustainable. Despite their progress, Jack and his team faced challenges related to resource constraints, infrastructure maintenance, and changing climate conditions. They remained committed to overcoming these challenges and to enhancing water and sanitation systems as a means of improving health and well-being. By enhancing water and sanitation systems, Jack and his team aimed to create a healthier and more sustainable environment where everyone had access to clean water and proper sanitation. They recognized that improving water and sanitation was essential for achieving development goals and for ensuring the health and dignity of communities. In their commitment to creating a just and equitable world, Jack and his team focused on advancing human rights and social justice. They aimed to promote respect for human rights, address social inequalities, and ensure that all individuals enjoyed their fundamental rights and freedoms. Jack's team began by assessing the state of human rights and social justice in different regions. They identified challenges such as discrimination, inequality, and human rights abuses. They also highlighted opportunities for promoting human rights and social justice through advocacy, policy reforms, and community engagement. One major initiative was to support human rights advocacy. Jack's team worked with organizations and activists to promote awareness of human rights issues, advocate for policy changes, and support victims of human rights abuses. They aimed to strengthen the protection of human rights and ensure accountability for violations. Addressing social inequalities was another priority. Jack's team supported efforts to reduce disparities related to gender, race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status. They worked on initiatives to promote equal opportunities, eliminate discrimination, and advance social inclusion. Empowering marginalized communities was central to their approach. Jack's team supported programs that gave a voice to marginalized groups, including women, minorities, and persons with disabilities. They aimed to ensure that these groups had access to resources, opportunities, and decision-making processes. Promoting access to justice was also important. Jack's team worked on initiatives to improve legal aid services, strengthen legal protections, and ensure that individuals had access to fair and impartial justice. They aimed to create legal systems that upheld human rights and addressed injustices. Education and awareness were integral to their strategy. Jack's team supported programs that educated individuals and communities about their rights and the importance of social justice. They aimed to build a culture of respect for human rights and encourage active participation in advancing social justice. Monitoring and evaluation were crucial for assessing the impact of human rights and social justice initiatives. Jack's team tracked progress, measured outcomes, and used data to inform decision-making and improve practices. They aimed to ensure that efforts to advance human rights and social justice were effective and sustainable. Despite their progress, Jack and his team faced challenges related to entrenched discrimination, resistance to change, and complex social issues. They remained dedicated to addressing these challenges and to advancing human rights and social justice as a means of creating a more equitable and just world. By advancing human rights and social justice, Jack and his team aimed to build a world where everyone enjoyed their fundamental rights and freedoms and where social inequalities were addressed. They recognized that promoting human rights and social justice was essential for achieving sustainable development and ensuring the well-being of all individuals.